day one of the Nissan International Classic, and the weather news is not good. It's cold, very cold, 12 degrees and below, and there's a very strong headwind, which is not what riders like, but it's all part of the challenge of this fabulous sport. Over 100 riders will shortly be leaving Parnell Square here in the heart of Dublin up the main Sligo road. They will be going through Maynooth, Mullingar, Longford, and then on into Boyle, and that's where there's a real sting in the tail for today's stage, because there's two King of the Mountain stages at the very end.
What do we expect today? Who knows? It's very much spring classic weather here today. Wind, very strong wind, possibly a headwind, I think, all the way, which means I think the riders are going to huddle together a lot. They'll try and remain in a bunch and keep each other warm, so to speak. The hot spots in Maynooth, Mullingar, Longford are going to be very vital today. We're going to see possibly big bunch sprints for them, because at the end of the day, those bonuses are possibly going to give us a yellow jersey. So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Dutch and the Belgians compete here in what is really their type of weather. They're well used to this sort of conditions, so it should be a very good day.
Stephen, these aren't the conditions you want at the end of a season.
Well, personally myself, I have a bit of excess on me, so I'm not too cold, but some of the lads I've ridden all season are fairly slimmed down, so the cold, they will feel it. We're talking to Lauren Finian coming in, and we're saying it's like starting the Grand Prix of Bessage again, which is on the 28th of January.
It's going to be really quite a hard haul up to Boyle, isn't it?
It's going to be a desperate haul, you know. It's going to be very, very difficult for the lads to compete at a high level, because going to a headwind is like beating a head against a stone wall. But, you know, there's no doubt about the final will be very exciting, but possibly the first few hours will be a bit monotonous for followers and journalists and everybody else, and for the riders.
Very much the team protecting itself.
Well, everybody has to protect themselves, but nobody wants to kind of sacrifice a rider, because the rider goes away in the early stages and gets 10 minutes, for example, into a headwind. Towards the final, he'll be a little tired. And today we arrive in a very difficult circuit, so in the finish, we catch that rider, and because of the efforts he's made earlier on going into the wind, he's tired. He might get eliminated today, so nobody wants to lose a rider.
Sean, the conditions are not great for cyclists.
Well, not great, but they could be worse, because it could be raining, and if it was raining today, it would be very cold. There's a lot of wind out there today, but that's the wind is for everybody, and I think for a rider's point of view, it's windy but it's dry, and that's very important, and also for spectators who want to come out to see the race. I think wind is not too bad, but when it's raining, well, then it makes it miserable for everybody.
How do you read the way it's going to develop today?
Well, I believe we have a headwind, and that's going to slow things down, that's natural. And in any race, in a one-day race on the stages, it just slows things down when you're into a headwind.
Yeah, the glass is short. Is that because of the wind?
There's a lot of windy conditions. There's a lot of dust blowing around, a lot of leaves and things blowing around this time of year, and it protects the eyes a bit also from the wind.
Well, do you reckon it could still be punched by the time we get to Boyle?
Your guess is as good as mine.
And indeed, it's anyone's guess what tactics will be played today on this long haul up to the northwest. But first, a chance to leave Parnell Square, 105 riders, and to show off this fabulous field to the people of Dublin in the autumn sunshine. So from the start area, it's down the hill into O'Connell Street, where these riders, most of them anyway, will end up in 5 days' time for a grueling 10-lap circuit at the end of the Dublin Millennium Stage. These are the early stages, and these are the very early times to limber up, because we have a short ride out of the city centre before the racing starts in earnest. And there's one of the great Nissan heroes, 3 times winners, and the man who's had a marvellous season on the continent this year. And a unique feature of the Nissan Classic, the thousands of school children who will cheer on heroes like Sean Yates there as they line the routes around Ireland over the next 5 days. A courtesy visit past the Nissan headquarters on the outskirts of Dublin, but soon it's time to get down to the earnest business of racing. And this is the proper start. Once the checkered flag drops, the race is on in earnest.
Yes, and away they go now on the dual carriageway just out on the road to Lucan, and not really much activity now. 4 or 5 rides now slightly clear of the main field. Marshall Guy up the Toshiba team there at the front.
And the beautiful countryside which is not really being very kind to our riders today. There's a very strong headwind, and the chances are that this is going to delay the field. They at first obviously want to protect themselves. Team tactics is going to come very much into it, but they have to be in the right position when it comes to one of the hot spots, and that's not very far away because we're now approaching Maynooth.
Yes, and we saw Steve Barr there just attacking at the front of the group now, one of the Irish riders there going with him, approaching this hot spot. And Barr, we notice also we see him there lying second there behind Chris McCann of the Snow Cream Ireland team, but Barr still in his warm-up tights, which is an indication of the cold weather that we have here today.
Well, now this is the first attempt we've seen at a breakaway today. It's been all bunched up, very similar pictures right down the road to Maynooth so far, but it's all hauled back again. Barr just looking around there to see if there's any support.
Barr now, and one of the PDM riders there, Johannes Dreyer, now just approaching Maynooth, heading for the sprint up the main street in Maynooth, and again a big crowd out to greet the riders as they go through. A sprint now, Dreyer now just jumping Barr on, going for the sprint, 100 metres to go. Dreyer, it looks to me to be taking that preem. Barr going through in second place, and possibly Chris McCann may just get third.
And in fact, confirmation then is that Johan Dreyer takes that one. Steve Barr is second, and in fact it was Simon Cope who got up into third place. And it's not just the points they're after these very important bonus seconds.
Yes, it's true. The race, a lot of riders think that this race is going to maybe come down to the bonus points that are given at these hotspot sprints, as we're looking at the bunch going through Maynooth now with huge crowds of school children out. But 3 hotspots on offer today with a bonus of 3 seconds for the winner, 2 seconds for second, and 1 second for third on each of the 3 hotspots. So it could be that the yellow jersey this evening will be worn by a rider who finishes well up in those hotspots, as we're looking at Adri van der Poel of the PDM team just trying to string that bunch out.
So the glamour of the Nissan under full sway. Some of the members of the Irish amateur team there in amongst the professionals. A great moment for them to ride alongside the greats. 105 riders started this morning. It's again very much a preservation order at this stage, as not too many of the really top men heading up front yet, and those that do looking around for a bit of support. And tremendous support from the Garda right along the route, and indeed the marshals leapfrogging ahead to make sure that every road is blocked. And we can see from this helicopter shot overhead, right even in the heart of the countryside, the people are out in their thousands to watch the Nissan Classic go by.
Riders now going along, and the wind blowing them to the right hand side of the road, and we can see a lot of the riders still wearing the tights, which indicates still the weather quite cold, and these riders facing into the strong headwind now as we're just approaching Mullingar for the second hotspot sprint.
You can see Sean Kelly in the middle of the bunch there, being very well protected from the almost Arctic conditions as we're now approaching Mullingar in this all-important second hotspot sprint.
One of the Irish riders now leading out this sprint, and looks like a Panasonic rider there just behind him, and a rider from the Super Complex team in third place there.
And you can see for the first time a little bit strung out. We've got a long line rather than a massive bunch down the main road to Sligo at this moment.
Looking at looks like Henry Abadi of the Z Peugeot team, followed by Rolf Goltz.
And they're all getting lined up, team tactics coming into play. We're coming now into Mullingar down the long hill approach.
And we can see Sean Kelly there from the air. We can see him in about third place now, approaching this first or the second hotspot sprint in Mullingar. So Kelly certainly going for the points. Anderson there in the sunglasses of the TVM TNT team. And it looks like Eric van der Arden of the Panasonic team. Kelly in second place. Possibly Anderson, or maybe it may have been Bauer in third place.
So there's the result. Van der Arden, as we expected very much to show on this event, beginning to come up to the fore. Kelly very well placed there in second place, and in fact it was Dag Erik Pedersen in third place in that one. So off they set from Mullingar along the shores of Lough Ellen, and in 62 miles there will be the all-important feeding station in Edgeworthstown. all-important nourishment on the run, and we are now approaching Longford, and the group is still together.
Lauren Feeney now we see going back to the Dr. Dave Curtis there, giving him a treatment for looks to be some sort of a knee problem which he's having. Finion in very good form at the moment, having finished second in the Grand Prix of the Nations last Sunday and also won the Tour of Europe a couple of weeks ago. We can see that spray now just being put onto the knee. We're looking now at the Cass team at the front of the bunch now, really doing some very good teamwork. Sean Kelly in third place with his teammates lining him out on the left hand side of the road, and on the other side coming up at the right was the second string with the one of the blue jersey of the Scottish team leading them out.
And we are approaching Longford at high speed. The roads are wet 1 minute, dry the next. We've got a dry patch here as we come into the town, and you can see the Cass team very well positioned indeed there.
Also the Panasonic team, it looks like Eric Van Lanke there ready to lead Eric van der Arden out, or Salem Piper actually, with van der Arden on his wheel there. So it's certainly a battle going on at the moment between the Cass riders and the Panasonic team, and between Sean Kelly and Eric van der Arden, both of whom want to get points in this hotspot sprint in Longford.
And you can see patches of water there on the ground. It's really getting quite treacherous now through the streets of Longford, and the crowds out in their thousands to cheer their heroes through.
And at the front of the bunch now, the yellow jersey of the Cass team. 3 of the Cass riders on the left. 2 Panasonics also in there. It looks like Piper leading van der Arden out. One of the Irish amateurs is also moving up for this prime. You can see now as they're approaching Longford now, and it's the very, very slippy roads now. It's De Silva who moves over in front. Kelly's on his wheel. Van der Arden is also there. And they're coming up now to the second corner, going very, very carefully around it. And a rider on the white jersey, looks like a PDM rider, attacking as they go into the corner. And they're going around it very, very easy. We can see that. Kelly now losing a bit of space there on that corner. And it's Adri van der Poel of the PDM team now trying to take this prime and take the 3-second bonus.
And Van der Poel has timed it just beautifully. He's going to take that easily, but who's going to be second? It's a very close run thing. Kelly's there, Van der Arden's there. They're battling down the main street here in Longford, and Kelly gets it. And once again, Kelly is in the picture. That's very good news indeed for Irish fans. But not so good news further back on the entry into Longford. That's one of the Dutch amateur riders.
Yes, a problem here with such a big field, 105 riders. Lady there obviously stepped out on the road, and one of the Dutch riders hit into her, but the doctor is with her immediately, and hopefully she's okay. The rider now obviously not seriously injured, getting his bike sorted out and getting pushed away and getting back on into the field.
So Harry Rosenthal painfully rejoins the race, and there's the hotspot sprint situation after the 3 today. Kelly leads and equals his points with Van der Arden. You notice that Steve Barr is back there in 5th place.
And we're looking now at Dave Mann of the Riley Banana team, leading one of the System U riders, leaving Longford now at high speed. Now the bunch are really lined out in one long line now, and the action is starting now for the day.
And after that action in Longford, we now look down at Ruski along by the shores of the Shannon, and the riders stream on through Carrick and Shannon and on towards the finish of the day in Boyle. We're now in Lough Key Forest Park, just on the outskirts of Boyle. And the big news really in this beautiful parkland is that the bunch is still a bunch, although a little bit strung out now because of the narrow roads in the park.
Yes, Martin Early now leading the bunch through. The riders now knowing that the circuit in Boyle is coming up very soon, and they know they've got to get up to the front because there's some very tight bends on that circuit in Boyle. So Early realising that, getting to the front of the bunch. Phil Anderson is also there as they're going through now the beautiful park of Lough Key Forest Park, and a bunch still all together.
Now this is the old Rockingham estate, and you don't get gate lodges like that anymore. Sadly, the main building was burnt down in 1957, but this is not what's on the riders' mind at the moment, because there's less than 2 miles to go before this very demanding and narrow circuit in Boyle, which is 3.5 miles long and has to be done 3 times.
Yes, and one thing is certain, that this bunch is in one big bunch at the moment, but after doing the 3 laps of the circuit at the finish, I think it's going to be split up a fair bit, because there's a very, very difficult climb up the Mail Coach Road. We've got Early at the front, Marshall Guyant there in the centre. One of the Fago riders looked like John Carlson there on the right hand side of the screen. Close up there of Martin Early now leading the group out of the Lough Key Forest Park, going through the second arch.
And the crowds in Boyle, the population of this beautiful little County Roscommon town has absolutely exploded in anticipation of the Nissan Classic arriving. You can see the motorbike trying to keep the pictures coming to us as they tussle now out of the park and coming up just about a quarter of a mile before they come into this very, very crowded town centre. And look at the anticipation, it's fantastic. The Cistern Abbey there, which dates back to 1162, the Cistercian Abbey, Boyle Abbey on your left, still in remarkable repair, but now we're actually on the circuit.
Yes, the riders turn left onto the circuit there now, and then they turn right up to the town centre, a very short finishing straight. They turn left into the finishing straight and up a little steep hill up by the Crescent in Boyle.
And this is really where it all begins to funnel down. A little bit of width here, but when they get into the town centre, it all becomes very narrow indeed, and it's going to be very important to get a good position. We still see one of those hard-working amateurs from Holland in the red jerseys there. They've really worked hard all afternoon against the wind to keep that bunch ahead.
Martin Early still up at the front now as they're turning left out of the Carrick Road up into Bridge Street and onto the Crescent. A lot of discussion going on at the moment now among the riders as to where Sean Kelly is going next year and whether Sean Kelly may be joining Stephen Roach or going to separate teams, and Martin Early still looking for a place on the professional team next year and hoping that he can follow Sean Kelly.
Well, they've just gone over the finish line there, but there's a lot of work to do before they get there finally. Round the hairpin and then back into the town again. And you can see it's beginning to get a little bit spread out, but it has to, because the streets are now about to get desperately narrow.
Yes, they're going along Ross Lane now, and then there's a sharp right-hand turn, and then a sharp left into Felton Road, and then a hairpin down this little lane, really quarry lane here now that are coming down, that brings them back out to Bridge Street and then up the climb of the Mail Coach Road.
Early hits the front there momentarily, possibly. Kelly going through there, nicely positioned, ready for the long climb that's ahead of them.
You also saw Paul Kimmage going through, Eric van der Aarden going through, Barrow there just in the picture, Eddie Plankert going through there. The elastic is stretching now, this bunch now really in one long line. Charlie Motte very near the back of the field there.
Not been a good day for System Use so far, because Fignon right at the back of the field also. And out they go into the town over the bridge, and this is where that arduous climb begins.
Yes, now the climb really in two sections. They climb up Green Street and then they drop down again and then up the Mail Coach Road. The road now comes from what you might call a normal width road into a single lane road, and it gets very, very steep, a very hard surface and a very difficult surface, and I think it really is going to split the field up. It's the old road to Sligo, but it's a long, long time since it has been used by traffic really on that road, and Early now really stretching this field out on the first time up the Mail Coach Road, which they're on now.
So there's Early taking the early strain on this very narrow road, as you can see, and the stragglers already being left behind. And this is what we expected might happen. We've had the bunch the whole way from Dublin, but this is a very different story indeed now, Pat.
Yes, looks like a little bit of a split now, and we can see Kelly there in 4th place, Anderson in 6th place, 11 riders in that leading group now, and this really, having been riding such a flat stage all day long, they suddenly hit this hill, and it really does make the legs hurt now.
That's Marshall Guyant up there in the front of that bunch, leading them up there. Not an envious position at the moment, I wouldn't think.
I know Marshall Guyant, silver medalist in the World Championships in Belgium this year, so a rider on good form now recently. Guyant leading from early. Lily White is also there, winner of the King of the Mountains in this race last year. 200 metres to go, the green flag there. Guyant now looking like he's going to really take this preem.
And you could see from that last shot the view right down into the town of Boyle. And Guyant looks as if he's got it all right. He's really pushing it, standing on the pedals there, the Toshiba man.
Stressing him out now. Martin Early not really having the legs to go by him now. Guyant now just coming and taking the preem.
And it was Lavienne there in 3rd place. Kelly's in there as well. He's in 4th place. And there you see it. So Guyant going to the head of the King of the Mountains classification. And this is the very tricky descent indeed. Now this is the back on the main road. We're heading in the direction from Sligo back into Boyle.
And looks like there's a rider now going slightly clear now on the descent. Now it's very slippy, and riders have been trying to be very careful on these hairpins. We saw Van der Poel now just slipping off the white there, centre road. But one rider drawn slightly clear at the moment now on the descent, obviously prepared to take risks that the other riders won't.
And Pat, this is truly for the brave, because not only is the road wet, it's also not a particularly good surface, particularly at some of these hairpins down at the bottom of the hill here. And a real gutsy move at this stage could tell a very different story altogether on this first day.
Certainly could, as the helicopter now is just moving up to pick up this rider now, and it's the Christophe Levan rider, number 103, Christophe Levan of the System U Pernod team, has drawn clear now and taken a chance really. He's taken a risk with 3 laps, another 2 climbs of this main coach road to go. He's taking a risk and going for home.
So the 25-year-old Frenchman really out ahead of this bunch, and here's quite a battle going on behind. The big question, of course, is can they haul themselves back to this man? He really possibly now is in with a chance, but then we've got to do that big hill twice again.
And in that chasing group, we've got Guyant, we've got Kelly, we've got Van der Poel is there, Phil Anderson, TBM, TNT is there, Alan Piper of the Panasonic team is there, Stephen Roach is in the group also, Pedersen, Malcolm Elliott is also there, and another rider on form, we could just see him on the screen there, Rolf Gultz of the Super Complex team in a green jersey. So some of the best riders in the world and in this race are in that chasing group. So Guyant really has his work cut out now to try and stay in front of this group.
We're now on the second lap and coming into Boyle town centre once again. And Lavienne has that whole street to himself at the moment. He's going to get an absolutely massive ovation as he comes in. Here's the chasing group.
Christophe Levan now turning into the finishing straight now, where you get 2 laps to go.
And Pat, the gap really isn't that big.
No, the gap now down to 30 seconds now. We can see Kelly and Early at the head of the chasing group. Phil Anderson there going through also in second place. Christophe Levan now, if he looks back down the finishing straight, he can just see the chasers coming around the corner.
Another nasty little climb there really in the centre of the town before they head into the thin stuff. But of course it's not so crucial as it was the last time, the riders having really been split by that mail coach hill.
And here's the big bunch now, the main bunch now going through now, about another 30 seconds behind the Kelly group. Steve Bauer is in that group, Charlie Motte is also there. Looking at Patrick Esno of the RMO team leading the group up.
And no respite, because now they have to go and do it all over again.
Kean Van Vliet there in the sunglasses now, a rider who has won King of the Mountains in this race on 2 occasions.
2 full laps left of this intriguing 3.5 mile circuit, which has really proved to be the sting of the tail in Boyle.
Levan now just coming out of Quarry Lane now safely for the second time. He looks back to see what his gap is, but he's still clear. He's still a good 30 seconds clear of the chasers now, out of the saddle, gets the bike going again and heads up Green Street, lowers his gear there, very quick change there, and settles into a rhythm now to head up the hill on Green Street and the main coach road for the second time.
And he really now is possibly even thinking of the possibility of victory here, because he seems to have opened up that gap a little bit. He seems to be so brave in the downhill sections. Once again it was wet, but in the back of the town there he definitely made ground. Look at that now.
Yes, he's certainly gaining on the chasing group now, because he's really driving on, and as you can see is concentrating on the hill and concentrating on going for that stage victory and concentrating on trying to increase that lead as much as he can on the chasing group. He knows that behind him there's 10 or 11 riders all working together there. We can see Van der Poel at the front, from Kelly, from Phil Anderson, from Marshall Guyant. Rolf Gultz is also there. These riders all with the intention of catching Christophe Levan. Levan now looking back, realises that the group now, you can see them back the road, he realises his gap is 30-40 seconds, but he still has to go right around and climb this hill again.
And the helicopter with the second group, we're back with some of the stragglers now really beginning to feel the pain of this hill, but the helicopter with the second group, and that gives Christophe Levan some sort of idea where his opposition is, but he still cannot afford to back off in any possible way at this stage, because the second group has got so much class.
But Levan looking very comfortable and riding very smoothly up this hill, out of the saddle there, stretches his legs, stretches the bike. And now we can see the group behind now in the distance. We can see the gap. While it looks close because they're climbing, it's probably about 40 seconds at this time. Still really not enough to take him around another full lap. He's going to have to really keep the pressure on.
And the locals cheering on this Frenchman who really has proved so powerful after that 103 miles to Boyle against the wind. And that has been a very tiring preparation for these climbs.
Goes through and takes the Prime now, Christophe Levan of the Système U Pernod team. Système U, the biggest of the French teams really, and really on form at the moment, with Fignon and Motte both also riding very well. So Guyant, if he takes this stage and takes the yellow jersey, can have the benefit of knowing that he's got a very strong support team behind him for the rest of the week. Going now for the sprint for second place, and look at the face of Kelly struggling now as he goes for take third place. Guyant goes through in second, Kelly in third, and Kelly obviously suffering.
And that second place there for Guyand will give him the King of the Mountains classification. There you see Kelly well in the hunt also. But this is the man that's really broken away. And once again, downhill, he's very fast indeed.
You can see also the slippery roads now. Riders being very careful.
And there's the situation as we anticipated. Guyant takes the overall King of the Mountains. Levan is in second place, Sean Kelly an excellent third, and Van der Poel taking the fourth place spot. Well, it's taken all day to do it, but it's finally happened. The field is really now quite spread out. As Levan was up at the top of the hill, the stragglers were still in the town. Levan now on the final descent towards Glory and Boyle here tonight. And there's the chasing group of 6.
Yes, now down to 6 riders now. This hill really taking its toll. And Guyant really one of the strong riders in this group now, doing most of the chasing on the climb and also leading him down the hill. Guyant is there, Van der Poel is there, Kelly still in the leading group, but Stephen Roach has gone back and is now in the second group, chasing this group of Kellys. But Levan now still 30 seconds clear and really looking like he's going to take the stage very quickly. But a fantastic chase going on here now from this group behind.
And another very quick man in there is Malcolm Elliott. He's had great glory on the Nissan in the past, and he's looking pretty strong at the moment. So Elliott, a man to look out for in this group also.
So it's Guyant, from Kelly, from Anderson, from Rolf Goltz and Malcolm Elliott.
And here's our leader heading for stage glory and indeed overall glory today. If he can keep up this sort of pace, the worst is over now. He's coming back into Boyle for the last time onto the circuit where they originally joined it on the exit of Lockheed Park. Looking back, he must be very pleased with that sight behind, because there's nobody to be seen on the road. But here's the fighting bunch of 6 for second.
sun is shining now, but it's cold, and as we looked at Kelly now waving up and trying to get the riders to close up, because time is vitally important here, and Kelly realises that he cannot afford to give a rider like Christophe Levant too much leeway, because it might be very difficult before this week is over trying to get it back. So these riders, while they know they may not now be going for the stage, are going to try and hold on to that lead, or trying to hold on and not allow Levant gain any extra time. Anderson doing his bit at the front, Galt's now taking up at the front, and back now with the leader Christophe Levant, coming in to win his first stage win in the Nissan International Classic, and he will be the wearer of the yellow jersey this evening.
The Commissioner President looking down on this man who's going to lead back into Boyle now. There's never been a day like this in Boyle for years, and they're going to give Christophe Levant an absolutely superb welcome as he comes up the hill for the last time. It really has been a super ride. He made the break on the downhill section, not the uphill section, and now he takes the rewards.
Yes, a superb result really, and a great performance of Christophe Levant. And here's the chasing group now, and it's Marshall Guy and Van der Poel, Galt's in the green, Kelly now on the left of the screen, Elliott there with the white hat just behind the group. Kelly now changes gear, moves up, looks over at Guyan. Van der Poel leads around the corner. Van der Poel leading from Kelly, from Guyan. Elliott is also there now. It's going to be a very, very good sprint as we're looking at the sprint now, and it's Van der Poel leading, Elliott coming on the right of the screen, Van der Poel moving over to Kelly, and Kelly very nearly falling there actually as Elliott takes the sprint for second place from Van der Poel, and a very disappointed Sean Kelly going through third. And here's the third group now being led by Peter Winnan now, Stephen Roach also in that group, a further 30 seconds behind Sean Kelly's group.
So Stephen Roach coming up, he will come over the line in about 12th position. And there's the stage result, and it could be a very significant stage indeed. Christian Levant has that very useful 32 seconds advantage over Malcolm Elliott. Sean Kelly has had an excellent day. He's the winner of the hotspot sprints, and there he is receiving his accolade, a very popular winner indeed in Boyle.
And now then, we had two.
The next winner up is Marshall Gayant, the King of the Mountains winner. And he really stunned everybody by his early climb here at Boyle, and they're a very happy man indeed. And Malcolm Elliott, who came second on the stage and is the points leader, would wear the green jersey. So there is the man with the overall.
Now this is the bit where the photographers get more than their fair share of
and there is the situation, the overall result at the end of the first day. Christian Levant, Van Poppel in second place, Elliott third, and Kelly still there. To Sligo for day 2 of the Nissan International Classic. As you can see, the conditions are terrible, wet and cold for the longest day in the event. Christophe Levine has been the talk of the Yates country overnight after his terrific win in Boyle last evening. Could this be the year of the French? Who knows? After all, we're going quite close to Killala today. But we're also going out into Connemara, into the west, into the Wild West, and that's just the sort of spectacular countryside where advantages like 33 seconds can disappear into the landscape.
Cold, wet, hard conditions today. It's going to be a very difficult stage. A long stage out in the open stretches across Connemara is going to be very, very hard. At the moment, after yesterday's stage, we have a group of 6 or 7 all in contention, and there's a lot of riders who lost out yesterday who really have nothing to lose but to go and make a race of it today. There are riders within 1 and 2 and even 3 minutes of that leaders group, and I think they can make a very good race for it. But either way, it's going to be very, very hard and a hard day, and it's going to be the strong, good men who are there to finish.
Is it going to be a question of keeping in the bunch till we get to a pretty spectacular finish like yesterday again?
That's something you never know. You just don't know on bike racing. You can never forecast beforehand what way the race is going to develop. 33
seconds then isn't too daunting a prospect at this stage?
No, I think there's a long ways to go and to control the race, especially with a 5-man team. It's very difficult.
Andrew, if you had to pick somebody else other than yourself to take the Nissan honours this year, who would it be?
You never know. Yesterday they said there were only 12 people who are left, but it's possible one of these days there is a breakaway more than 10 minutes or 5 minutes. You never know, but I think it's Levan. He makes a good chance because there is no time trial. There are only a little bit of bonifications. Of course, there is Kelly, there is Elliott. So I think there are a few riders. For them, it's possible to win the Nissan Classic.
Eric van der Arden leads the field out through the wet streets of Sligo and even gets a little bit of a shudder on there as he goes round that tight corner. First of all, it's the 5-mile pedal out to Ballacedare where the race starts proper. And there you can see the very full river after the overnight rain. It's still raining and it's still very cold, and that's going to be an extremely deciding factor today, as it looks as if the large bunch of riders, 104 today, not 105. We've sadly lost Aaron Yacht, who has retired after injury on the very spectacular descent at Boyle yesterday. And now things start in earnest, and we're delighted to say that Phil Liggett has joined us from Seoul to join our commentary team with Pat McQuaid.
Thank you very much indeed, Alan. Well, the riders today facing up to the stage from Sligo to Galway, the longest stage of the Nissan Classic this year, 149.1 miles, Pat McQuaid, and I would think you've come in for some stick today, haven't you?
Well, a little bit, but it's more so possibly because of the conditions, because they're facing into a headwind again for the first part of the stage, and then once they turn in Westport and we head south towards Galway, they should really get a tailwind, which will improve things a lot. And also the forecast is that it will improve as the day goes along, as we're looking at Wegmuller here now taking off the capes, which signifies the rain is actually stopping.
Well, that's a good sign, because we're only just over 2 miles into today's marathon stage, and the riders facing one of 4 large climbs. This is Hungry Rock, and it is an absolute brute, Pat, and it comes very early on and will shortly be followed by Ladies Bray. So you really have given them something to think about straight away.
Yes, it's a hard start to the stage, there's no doubt, and although really, reason being that this climb normally wouldn't be so difficult, because it's so early in the stage. I haven't really had a chance to warm up, as we were just watching their shots of Laurent Fignon at the front of the group, and now looking at the back of the group here now climbing Hungry Rock.
So the field then, they're not going to be too worried about the distance at the moment, more concerned with hanging on to the back of this bunch, 1 or 2 of the riders here, because this really is, I think, the best field that we've seen in Ireland in the Nissan Classic over the years. We've only seen one winner, of course, Sean Kelly, and I think after yesterday's stage where Christophe Leven stole the yellow jersey at the finish, there's signs that perhaps Sean Kelly is going to have to fight harder than ever this year. Here's the leaders now on the climb of Hungry Rock. The man in the middle, Chris Lillywhite, the king of the mountains in the Nissan Classic 1 year ago, and of course survived quite a nasty fall and was helped all the way to the finish in Dublin by his teammates. Well, Lillywhite again then, Pat, on the attack and scoring well, we hope.
Yes, hopefully good scoring points here now. It's good to see him back up there going for this classification. Again, there are a few others now, like Marshall Guyant and Christophe Levan also going. We can see Levan on the left, Guyant there in the red jersey of the Toshiba team, just also well in the picture, and Phil Anderson also up the front there, just on the wheel of Laurent Fignon. So it's going to be a good sprint for the line this time, and all the top men are there for it. Van der Poel is also there, I can see.
And Laurent Fignon, going back to the beginning of the year, the winner of Milan San Remo, twice winner of the Tour de France, and Chris Lillywhite, who has a hat-trick of King of the Mountains titles this year, the Milk Race, of course, the Circuit de la Sarthe in France, and the Nissan Classic last year, now challenging again for the Rally Banana team. This is the steep part of the climb of Hungry Rock, and there is the beauty of Ireland again today. The autumn tints just beginning, and I have to say the temperature here a lot colder than it was in Seoul just 24 hours ago. The temperature barely reaching 50 degrees centigrade.
Right, well, we're approaching the top of Hungry Rock now, and you can see Chris Lillywhite still in the centre, looking very strong for this one, but Marshall Guyant just in behind. There he is to the right, and he's the man that holds the polka dot jersey overnight.
And so Marshall Guyant sets the pace, 100 yards to the finish now, being challenged by Lillywhite. We look down from the helicopter, the finish just ahead there now, and Guyant taking on Lillywhite, and Lillywhite fighting back strongly here as Lillywhite goes over the line first, and Marshall Guyant gets second place there. And the descent begins.
And there you see the King of the Mountain action opening with Lillywhite win today, but Guyant retaining his overall lead.
So a good start then for Chris Lillywhite on what is likely to be an almost 7-hour day in the saddle here. Nice to see, Pat, some of the green jerseys of the young Irish amateurs challenging alongside the best pros in the world.
Yes, they've been quite competitive in this race so far, and they claim that they're going to have a good go today as well, as we're looking at this one long line of riders now coming down this descent.
There's trouble at the back here, because that looks to me as though it's Laurent Fignon who's freewheeling near the back of the race, and he appears to me as though he is about to stop.
Well, he did have trouble yesterday with his knee, and he had attention from the doctor, so it could be quite possible that maybe the cold conditions are affecting it again this morning.
Well, we're on the second climb of the day here. This is the tough first category climb of Ladies Bray. It comes very shortly after the climb of Hungry Rock. In fact, a matter of some 9 miles before they start this climb. A very exposed climb indeed. You can see our helicopter over to the left there, and that gives you some idea of the open countryside. The wind too, Pat, is sweeping across the moorland side here.
It is, and as according as these riders go higher up, of course, the colder it gets as they're crossing over the Ox Mountains now, going back down onto the coast road, and we can see Van der Poel in the centre of the screen there. Lily White is also there, and the riders really stretched out now out of the saddle, and it really is a hard start to today's stage, there's no doubt.
And we wonder that at the end of the rainbow, what would they really like to see? Possibly an electric fire at the moment as the helicopter shadows them through the Ox Mountains.
Really, once they're over this climb now, it's a long, flat stage right into through Ballina, Castlebar, Westport. Not really flat, but rolly countryside before we hit Connemara, and then we've got a couple of climbs in Connemara which should really split the field up. This climb, Ladies Bray now, all together still. It's so early in the stage, really, you're not going to get riders trying to attack and trying to stay away, and the fact that riders are going for this mountains classification means they're all staying up there. Guyant now going for it, Van der Poel with him.
Well, this is Marshall Guillaume again, of course, yellow jersey in the Tour de France a couple of years ago. But look at the acceleration here by Chris Lillywhite, as he was well led out there, it looked to me, by Tim Harris. And now Lillywhite going again, very determined. He's trying to establish now a good challenge here for his defence in the King of the Mountains. But he's now having to hold off Adrie van der Poel, an old favourite here in Ireland. And Van der Poel coming up towards Chris Lillywhite. It's going to be a close one. Lillywhite will take that. Van der Poel is second, and the field, for a while at least, has broken up.
And it's 2 in a row for Lillywhite, with Adria van der Poel coming through there second. But notice that Gayant is still very much in the picture. And that will make it a rainbow day for him, because it looks like he's in with a good chance of retaining that polka dot jersey. So, down they come out of Ladies Bray. And as you can see, it's beginning. And there's Fignon. This is the first major sensation, the first major retirement. He's given up. He's taking the warm way home. And as we lose one great cyclist, we look at another in Ballina. Now, this is the first hotspot location of the day. And here come the riders streaming down a very fast approach down the hill into Ballina.
So we're here in Ballina now, and this is the big sprint for the valuable small time bonuses, because so often over the years gone by, the Nissan Classic has become a battle for the hotspot sprints. That's an individual title as well, don't forget, for the leader in the yellow jersey. But this is the first today of 4 bonus sprints. This one's Ballina. We've still got Westport, Castlebar and Oughterard to come. And I must say, Pat, you found us a nice route as well.
Beautiful countryside, and I noticed there going down to the bunch there we saw Théon van Vliet at the front of the Panasonic team, which would indicate to me that Van der Arden, he's possibly leading out the sprint for Van der Arden, which means Van der Arden is certainly going for these bonus seconds, as well as maybe the hotspots competition as well. So we should see some very exciting sprinting as we're watching now. Fantastic crowds meeting this race as we're going across.
Well, it's over the River Moy and into the town itself, and it looks like the entire population of 7,000 people in Ballina and more have turned out. Certainly every school child in the district is there to cheer our heroes.
So big Sean Yates on the front at the moment now. I think it's Adrie van der Poel there in second place too. I'm interesting to see the whereabouts of Sean Kelly, Pat, because we haven't seen too much of Sean all day. As the sprint now starts, Sean Yates it is, the hero of course into Tralee last year. He's now been pushed off the top of the front here now, and the challenge going to come. Meanwhile, at the back of the race here, Pat, one or two riders appear to be not enjoying the cold. That's Eric van der Aarden now at the front now, being challenged on the outside there by, I think, Chris Walker, Malcolm Elliott, and Christophe Leven was also there. But there's the result.
A very happy result indeed for Ballina, because thousands upon thousands of people have come to cheer on Sean Kelly, and there he was, second fastest. There's been quite a lot of action. Hotspot sprints at Castlebar, Chris Walker up front there, Elliott in the frame, and van der Aarden. A little further on down the road at Westport, it was Walker and Elliott again doing very well, but van der Aarden up front. Now they stream through the village of Lenan and into a very significant climb.
Well, this climb is certainly significant, Alan, but also the fact that Eric van der Aarden has scored in all the sprints today, winning quite a lot of valuable time bonuses.
Yes, this climb now, Van der Aarden certainly is back in the action, and it's good to see him sprinting as well as he does. This climb really only about a mile long, but short and fairly sharp now, and a climb where they really race up at that speed and will really tear the legs out of them, so it should be a very good sprint for the top.
One or two riders who will not be taking part in the sprint to the top, and we have to say very significant riders in the world of top flight professional racing. We've already seen the departure of Laurent Fignon. News now reaching us that Eddie Plankett, the green jersey winner in the Tour de France, has also retired, as so too is Jonas Koum and also Jean-Francois Bernard. And I have to say that for Jean-Francois Bernard, this has been really a thoroughly forgettable season for him. And now on the front of the climb here, as we're coming up this third category climb, you've got Marshall Guéant, and he's actually changed his jersey now. Pat, he's in the Leaders King of the Mountains jersey.
He is indeed. He started off the stage with his tracksuit top covering it now, and as he's back in the jersey, but he's been attacked also. It looks like Adrie van der Poel. Van der Poel now attacking Guéant and going for this prime, so it's very much a very good battle going on for King of the Mountains points here. Martin Early we can just see back there in third place as well.
And that's confirmation of that King of the Mountains climb. A very good result indeed for Martin Early in third place. Lily White once again very much in the picture. Now they stream down the descent and on towards Connemara, in Connemara. And as you can see, no significant break-up as yet of this large field.
Back at the front now, it's Guéant from Van der Poel, and the racing is really on in earnest now. They've got a very good tailwind, and it's really going to make them race all the way to Galway.
Well, I must say, Pat, that when you look at Marshall Guéant heading this field, what a great season he's had because of his fine placing in the World Championship this year. All the riders dressing for the weather, though, there's no doubt about that, apart from the long sleeve jerseys coming out today and the arm warmers here. Also the riders wearing as many as 2 racing caps to keep their heads warm too.
That's right, one is a cotton hat, which is a normal racing hat, and some also have a waterproof hat underneath them. But speaking as we were earlier of those retrials today, which are quite a surprise, in some ways not so surprising because these riders are at the end now of a long and very hard season, and for the top riders such as Plankett and Bernard, who come under so much pressure all year long and expected to produce top class results all the time, eventually it does get to them. We're back here now with another rider who has won King of the Mountains classification in this race before, Tion van Vliet of the Panasonic team.
So we're on the climb of Marm now, a second category climb, the last climb of this long day, by the way. We've had 3 already, and Tion van Vliet is the rider pulling them over the top of this climb. It's been a long day, it's been a very hilly day, but at least organiser Pat McQuaid does understand the ardour of riding a long season when these riders will pedal something like 35,000 miles in a year. And we're getting a chance here, a glimpse of the Irish riders. Chris McCann we caught a glimpse of there, the brother of Cormac McCann, of course, in Seoul for the Olympic Road Race Championship. All climbing as a pack though, and it's being paced up here by Tion van Vliet, no doubt trying to lead out his men like Eric van der Aarden, who's having a great day. Adrie van der Poel also on the left.
Van der Poel now taking that frame just about approaching the line now. Van der Poel sprinting very well and obviously in very good form. Just past the 200 metre to go there, and really opened up a lead now in a very short space of time. Van der Poel sprinting, taking it there in a very good fashion, and obviously.
And there's the interesting situation. It means that Marshall Guyant will retain his polka dot jersey, but Van der Poel comes up into second place in that category after the second day of climbing in the mountains.
So Van der Poel then keeps the pressure on as they now start to roll away, because this day is now coming towards the end. 103 miles covered so far, and that gives us something like 46 miles still to go. Van der Poel, I think, knows Ireland as well as any Irishman, Pat, because of the times he's been here for the Nissan Classic.
Certainly does, although this is his first time racing through Connemara, and a beautiful shot here of Connemara here in the autumn sunshine.
Well, here's the whole field coming in now off the mountains, and it looks as though they're all together. There's a hand gone up in the field there. It looks to me like it's the yellow jersey of Christophe Leven. Charlie Motte on the right of the picture has heard something, because he's looked up to see his teammate in trouble, and that really is a great shame, because Leven here was looking quite a solid leader today, but now he's in all sorts of trouble because Sean Kelly himself is piling on the pressure.
Yes, we can see him now really, and the pressure is on, and it's a disaster really for Leven, because the big boys are really taking advantage of it here. Kelly now, you can see him looking back. Van der Poel is also there, and really they're taking advantage of this situation, and the Pernod System U Pernod boys really in trouble now.
Well, the field now splitting up here as we come into Uachtarán, and this is the last sprint of the day. There are 4 sprints today, all carrying 3 seconds 2 and 1 second small time bonuses. And those of you who follow the Nissan Classic over the years know that these small time bonuses have made the difference between winning this race and losing it. Thomas Wegmuller then, of Sean Kelly's team, bringing them into the town centre. Adrie van der Poel is right on his wheel there in second place. But the man who hasn't failed to score yet today, Eric van der Aarden, isn't too far behind either. So this is still Wegmuller doing a great ride here. Second in Paris-Roubaix this year, remember, the man with the plastic bag in his back wheel, which stopped, without doubt, the great victory of the year for him. Now Van der Poel goes on the left and goes very strong. Van der Aarden comes tight. That was a close sprint between Van der Poel and Van der Aarden.
And there is the result. In fact, it was Van der Aarden who gets not only that, but he will wear the white jersey tomorrow, as he is now top of the hotspots.
So we're on the outskirts now, heading down towards Galway, about 12 miles from the finish. And this is Van Hooijdonk here going in the lead. He really was the superstar coming into being a couple of years ago when he finished 5th in Paris-Roubaix. He's got the French champion, Eric Caritou, in his slipstream there. And the field at last now, Pat, beginning to break up.
Oh, it certainly is. There's some fantastic racing going on as they're coming in through Salt Hill and onto the finishing circuit in Galway. Attack after attack after attack. And here's another attack now. Phil Anderson, who's got up to Van Hooijdonk and Caritou and just looked over at them and went straight past. And the other riders now looking at each other, waiting for somebody to take up the chase.
Well, this is a very typical move from the Australian Phil Anderson, because I've seen him win a lot of races by making a jump just near the end, and he's gone clear. I have to say, Pat, since I last saw him, he's grown his hair by a few inches, because I've never seen Phil Anderson with such long hair. He's had a lot of enjoyable times at the Nissan Classic. Phil, of course, not least, Pat, would remember well that double stage win he had in 2 days at Cork, and I think the other one was Clonmel?
Clonmel 2 days later, yeah, that's correct.
So Anderson now breaking clear, and here he is now. He's joined one of the less fashionable Belgian teams this year, and in fact Anderson missed the Tour de France despite his cracking form this year, because his team simply wasn't good enough to take part in the race. And that was a rather tight and slippery bend there, Pat, as he came round the corner. Now he'll go through the finish, and a nice crowd here applauding Phil Anderson over the finishing line in Galway. And now he faces 3 full laps of the circuit and a total of 9 miles.
Yes, as Anderson goes through the finish line now for the first time, he's got 3 laps to go of a 3-mile circuit, a new circuit we're using in Galway, in a very fast and very open circuit. Looking now back at the chasing group, being led here by Thomas Wegmuller, now driving on for his team captain Sean Kelly. Van der Poel in second place. You see Peter Winnan also there, Tim Van Vliet, Sean Kelly going through there, and Stephen Roach also in the group. These riders now gone through the finish line about some 20 seconds behind the leader Phil Anderson.
And the bad news is, I'm afraid, that Christophe Leven, the overnight race leader who punctured, is now over 7 minutes behind the field in what really is the main field, because this leading bunch had, with Sean Kelly pole clear soon after Levent punctured today, is now well and truly deciding the destiny of the Nissan Classic. The winner of the race in Dublin on Sunday is one of these riders in the front group, and I'm afraid at the moment it's Australian Phil Anderson who's making up the best use of this breakaway.
Certainly is. Anderson really driving on now, not concerned about the weather and really just looking at the road ahead. And he's now going out onto the new bridge in Galway, over the new bridge road, and a very, very wide open expanse and very, very windy across this stretch now. But we can look back at the gap now, and still no sign, as Anderson looks back also, still no sign of the chasing group. Back now, the chasers here as they're going around the roundabout on the Headford Road here, heading out onto the new bridge, and a gap of some 25-30 seconds between them and the leader Anderson.
So this group then containing all of the stars except Christophe Leven and of course Charlie Motte, and the riders now being led here by number 7. Well, that's John Carlson, one of the 5 top Fagor ever ready riders here. 52 is Eric van der Aarden. That's Carlson looking for a little bit of help. But the man they're chasing, Phil Anderson, a style which we've seen in action all over the world, the first Australian to ever lead the Tour de France and once a winner of the white jersey in the Tour de France. Phil Anderson, a stage winner in that great race. He's also won here before, now trying for what would be for him a first ever victory in Galway.
Anderson of the TVM team, co-sponsored in this race by TNT Couriers, really driving on now down Quick Road and heading back towards the finishing straight for the second time. His team car now having come up and joined him. Case Bream, his manager, obviously I'm sure delighted to see Anderson out in this position at the moment.
There's the whole field. They're taking these bends a little bit cautiously because we've had a rain shower here that's made the roads quite wet and the temperatures haven't warmed up too much, but Anderson comes through the line here now. 2 laps to go. A little glance over his shoulder. Well, he's got a lead of around 35 seconds at the moment, and I caught a glimpse there of Van Hooijdonk going clear of the field as well.
Van Hooijdonk, the super complex team now, really riding well, was very aggressive on the run into the Galway finishing circuit as well, trying to go clear now of the chasing group.
Well, this race already showing, Pat, although they're not racing so hard early on, they're certainly racing over the last 2 hours in these opening 2 days of the Nissan Classic. And Sean Kelly is not yet showing to us the great indications that he's going to win again, is he?
No, he certainly looks under a little bit of pressure at the moment, and allowing Anderson to go away like that. Anderson, a rider who obviously is a danger man and obviously a threat and could win this race overall, one of the favourites starting off. And Kelly now really allowing him too much leeway, really, although we're looking at the group now chasing hard, lining out as they go through the streets of Galway.
Well, the last time we came into Galway, it was a marvellous finish, and it was Eric van der Aarden who won in some terrible weather on that occasion, and of course enormous crowds. We're heading off now towards a place in the centre of Galway, and it's Phil Anderson now catching the late autumn sun here as he goes out on this 3-mile circuit, again anxious that the main field don't close in on him, because he really isn't improving his lead at all now.
No, he's just holding them now as they're going out, squared out towards Portmore there, the chasers now, and they're really lined out. We can see the gaps between each of the riders now. Case Bream, the manager, telling Anderson exactly what's happening behind, telling him who's chasing and what the gap is, and Anderson then driving on.
Well, it's good to see Phil Anderson back in form, because he hasn't had such good form these last couple of seasons, but this year he came out on top form and he's held it almost throughout the year, and I think he was very disappointed indeed that his team didn't make the Tour de France this year, and I certainly think they would have had a better tour than one or two of the teams who in fact were selected to ride in the race. Now Anderson then, more information from Case Bream here as they try desperately now to a little bit of professional help there, I think, you know, Pat, with the crosswinds blowing.
It could be, obviously these managers will try anything, and with a crosswind blowing it brings the car up alongside him and shelters them for the wind for as long as it's possible, and the commissaires there on hand really to watch over it and make sure it's not abused. We're looking at Casio da Silva, I think it is, trying to chase with Eric van der Aarden on his wheel. Anderson now going round the roundabout and looking at the crowds and giving him a great cheer as he goes through. basically to watch over it and make sure it's not abused. We're looking at Casio da Silva, I think it is, trying to chase with Eric van der Eyden on his wheel. Anderson now going round the roundabout and looking at the
out of this race, at least in the overall race for the yellow jersey with that puncture. It's a question now on who will take the yellow jersey tonight in Galway, because Phil Anderson here is obviously now the favourite. He needs a few seconds. He wants the 10 seconds time bonus for the win as well. Swinging in then towards the finishing line this time through, and then there'll be one lap to go to the finish.
And as he goes through here, Anderson will take the ceiling sprint for the bell lap each time. Anderson on his own, not having to sprint now, and he really, when he hears that bell, he'll be delighted to know he's only got 3 miles to go through to win this stage, and not just, as you say, win the stage, but possibly take the yellow jersey as well. Van Hooydonk still trying to get clear of the chasing group, but they're closing up on him rapidly.
Edwig van Hooydonk then is going to be picked up by the whole field here, but Anderson certainly isn't at the moment. Inside 3 miles to go for Phil Anderson. The bell for the remnants of this large group which broke away as soon after they came through the feed at Marm Cross today. And of course the man that left now 8 minutes behind, the overnight race leader Christophe Leven.
I saw Robert Miller there leading that group through the bunch with Eric Carty on his wheel. Miller obviously riding to try and contain Anderson's lead for Stephen Roach, and Stephen also in this group, and it's good to see him having come through such a difficult stage and finish up with the leaders.
Well, now in the centre of Galway for the final time, where the crowds really are tremendous here now as they cheer Phil Anderson through. Ever since the race came into Galway, for the last 10 miles of the day, in fact, Phil Anderson has been the leader. He gambled on a long escape near the end, and he's gambled well, but the field are closing in on him, and last time through, they've lopped another 8 seconds off the lead of Phil Anderson. So the question now, Pat, is, can he do it?
It's very close. It's going to be a very close finish, because with that big open stretch along the new bridge, he could be brought back if these riders really get their mind to it, and they are certainly trying. Martin Early now at the back of the group, really just hanging on. He's done his work for the day. He's done all he could for Sean Kelly, and he's just probably at this stage content to finish in the group.
And it's all up to Sean now, as well. Sean Kelly knows when he races in Ireland, he really does absorb the pressure so well, because the winner, the only winner ever of the Nissan Classic, he really must on occasions feel that everybody is pointing at him. And there he is in the white jersey, proudly wearing number 1, the only rider ever to wear number 1 in the Nissan Classic. And the sun has come out at last, the hats have gone to one side, and for once it is feeling a little bit like Seoul yesterday, Pat.
Certainly is, as we're back with Anderson, and looking at his gritty, aggressive style, always has been throughout his career a very aggressive rider now, and he's really digging in. He's leaning down and trying to get as much aerodynamics as possible and trying to cut through that wind, and quite a strong wind now against him, and he's, as we can say, he's really put in a powerful performance here today.
Well, there are some, they say, Pat, who call him the Terminator, but the only nickname I've ever heard is the Kangaroo, and he's certainly got himself into a nice lead at the moment.
Certainly has, and he's going to find himself, possibly, if he can hold out, he could possibly take the yellow jersey and be wearing yellow as this race leaves Galway tomorrow.
So then, Phil Anderson now keeping this marvellous style he has, and it looks like the hat is about to go off. No, a readjustment, getting ready for the finish perhaps. No, it's gone. So the hat's gone. And so Phil Anderson now preparing for the finish today. This will be another stage win if it all goes well now for Phil Anderson, because he's won stages in the Nissan Classic before. There's the main field in full flight. The question that we all ask now is, can he get the time gap necessary to lead the race tomorrow when off we go from Galway down to Limerick? And all of the Fagor team, not least Stephen Roach, now working hard to close the gap.
Yes, and they're really going to have to do it now, because Anderson coming around the quick road roundabout now with only about a mile to go to the finish now, and he really is down to it, and it's a superb performance from Anderson. And as we saw Roach chasing hard, but I think somehow or other he has left it a little bit too late now.
Well, sometimes the late attack works, sometimes it doesn't. I think Phil Anderson's had his fair share of defeats at this move as well as success, but you can't ever take it away from a man who goes and tries to attack for glory from a big field of these class riders so close to the finish. Anderson now heading for home. It's a question of exactly what he wins by now to see if he pulls on the leader's yellow jersey, because very shortly now he'll swing left into the home straight. He'll see the finish, and it's a short finish today. So Phil Anderson now riding down to the line there, and then the clock will start counting to see if Phil Anderson will lead this race on stage 3 tomorrow. And I don't think, Pat, Anderson's ever held the lead in Nissan before, has he?
No, he hasn't. He's won stage but not won the lead, and today he certainly has won another stage into Galway, and the clock now starts, and the whole question is how much he's finished in front of this group as they're coming into the finishing straight. A superb shot of those suffering riders, and really all the effort shows on their face of a hard day's racing.
Well, they were certainly very, very cold, but now they're going to sprint for the finish here. Eric van der Aarden on the far right, taking on Rolf Goltz in the green, and Eric van der Aarden gets second place. Rolf Goltz claims third place. I think Van der Poel in the white jersey may just have got fourth there. Sean Kelly wasn't too far away. Let's look again. On the right is Van der Aarden. In the centre in green is Rolf Goltz, and Van der Poel on the far left. That's the order over the line.
And there's the stage result. Phil Anderson wins, Van der Aarden second, Goltz up into third. But look at Kelly, he's down in ninth, and more importantly, Stephen Roach is back in 16th. So Phil Anderson takes the stage win, flies from Interflora and Waterford Crystal Trophy. Very happy man indeed, the Australian. Van der Aarden will be wearing the white jersey tomorrow as he now heads the sprint, the king of the sprints. Marshall de Gaunt keeps the king of the mountains polka dot jersey, but he has to watch out because Van der Poel is now only 3 points behind him. And here is Van der Poel, who inherits the green jersey, as Phil Anderson can't wear both yellow and green, because Phil Anderson actually leads the points total, but Van der Poel is second. And here is Phil Anderson. A very happy man indeed. The new leader for the Nissan International Classic, receiving his yellow jersey from Tony Kelly of Nissan. He has won stages in Ireland before, but he's never worn yellow. Well, congratulations, Phil, in yellow tonight. You must be very happy about that.
Yeah, I didn't expect to win the stage and be in yellow today, but anyway, very happy, and I was just strong enough to pull it off there. It was only maybe a mile from town when I attacked, and when I came through over the finish first line, maybe I just had a couple hundred yards there.
You seemed to close up pretty dramatically on the second lap.
Yeah, I was debating whether to go back to the group or not, because the wind out there was tremendous, and I wasn't too confident in keeping it, so a bit of a dilemma there, but I pushed on persistently, and once I came over with the bell the last lap, it's only 4 miles to go, I thought, well, I'll just put the hammer down and just give it what I got,
Well, an Australian leads, but the situation tonight is Kelly's fourth, Early's in 8th, and Roach 10th. It's day 3 of the Nissan International Classic, and it doesn't get any easier. The weather's better, it's warmer, the rain has stopped, I'm glad to say, in Ayr Square here in Galway, as we move out on a very hard day indeed, because there are no less than 5 climbs ahead of the riders today, and another long, long route, 126 miles before they get to Limerick. It's a very meandering route to Limerick. First of all, we head inland to Lochray, then down along the shores of the Shannon, through places like Woodford, Killaloe, then across to Neenah. But then comes the real bite. After about 85 miles, they start to ascend silver mines, 1,000 feet high, and a very tricky and dangerous descent. Finally, it's into Limerick, where the largest crowds yet are expected on the Nissan Classic, and onto a 3.5-mile circuit, which takes them right up the centre of O'Connell Street. And let me just remind you of the positions as they leave Galway here. Phil Anderson leads, and there are 3 Irishmen in the top 10. Sean Kelly's in 4th place, Martin Early's in 8th, and of course Stephen Roach in 10th. Martin, you're having a great ride, 8th overall in the general classification, and tremendous support, of course, for Sean Kelly.
Well, I'm not going too bad for the moment.
before the Nissan, I didn't have too good form, so I'm quite happy with that. But then we can always do better. I mean, I'm not that pleased with it.
Well, of course, as we know, a race like this is all about support from the team. How's the morale within the team?
Well, the morale within the team is quite good when you think that Cass are pulling out at the end of the year. But the morale is quite good. I mean, yesterday in the 20-man group in the front there was 5 Cass riders, which was quite good.
And tell me, any chat about next year?
Well, there's a few things on the road at the moment, but nothing sure for the moment.
Do you see yourself being along with Sean again next year?
Hopefully, yes.
And here is the man of granite, Phil Anderson, back with a vengeance this year. Phil, in the Nissan Classic in yellow. How's he going to go today?
Yeah, well, I've never been in yellow in Ireland before, so it's a new experience for me. But well, still, let's say early days, not halfway through the tour yet, so still quite a few miles before here in Dublin. But I was very strong yesterday, and just hope I can keep that strength till the finish.
Who, in your opinion now, Phil, are the top contenders for this year's Nissan?
Van der Poel's going very strongly.
Yeah.
Of course, Sean Kelly's always there. I don't know, it's still pretty open. Yesterday we saw what happened, to the leader. He lost quite a few minutes, and, the same thing can happen to me, same thing can happen to anybody, so you can never be too confident.
Well, we joined the action just before Loughrea, where the first hotspot sprint of the day will take place. Although nothing significant has happened yet, the fields seem a lot more lively today in the sunshine.
Well, there's Martinelli in the yellow cast colours at the moment. And all the riders here now. I think, Pat McQuaid, the weather now warmed nicely, and the riders certainly more urgency about them today.
Yeah, certainly they've started off very well now, and the sunshine, I think, has brought out the best in them. Also, we've got to bear in mind that since we've turned south, where we've got the benefit of that wind which was so strong against them on the first day. So it's certainly more conducive. The racing now, as we're watching this approaching the Loughrea to the first hotspot sprint of the day. Michel Vermont there in front of Edwin van Hooydonk of the Super Complex Yoko team.
And so the field now about to contest the first hotspot sprint of the day down here in Loughrea. Remember the bonuses, small time bonuses for the first 3 riders over the line. But those of you who followed the Nissan Classic over the last few years know that those small bonuses so often have decided this great classic win. So riders now beginning to get a little bit excited here. Super Complex on the attack. And Edwin van Hooydonk is the man who seems to be riding on form for that team. For my money, I think, Pat, he's looking for the win this year.
He certainly is riding very well, although Goltz in this event is their team captain, and he's the man that has said he wants to win the event now. He's looking at sprint now for this first hotspot sprint, and it looks very much like one of the PMS riders there who took that sprint, possibly Nick Barnes, I think, just taking it there on the line from Wegmuller.
Well, Barnes, Wegmuller, and then Simon. We haven't seen him in the caption before. So getting everything started off to a good hotspot run in the little town of Loughrea. And a very nasty little right-hand corner takes them out of the town and along the shores of Loughrea, which gives the town its name.
And doesn't it look beautiful today? Because the autumn minor Indian summer today, and a long straight line of riders here moving away along Loughrea.
An interesting situation developing here now. We've got this leading breakaway group. We've got a lot of attacks and a lot of 2s and 3s now on the run out from Galway trying to break away, and it wasn't really until approaching Loughrea that this group broke away now, and Martinelli's at the head of it with Thomas Wegmuller, who has been in every one of the moves so far. And of this 10-man breakaway group, Martinelli is the highest placed overall. So there could be a little Cass tactics situation being worked out here, where they're trying to get early up into the yellow jersey and take the pressure off Kelly.
Next up is the first of the King of the Mountains climbs, and that brings them up, not a very severe one, up this incline to Hillbar, just Category 4 climb.
So the start of the climb today, and another tough day in the saddle for the riders here as the group come together. Rolf Goltz there on the front, an attack there off the front of the group.
looks like very much like a Noramo. Yes, Paul Kimmage now on the attack now on the climb. It's the first bit of action we've seen from Kimmage in this event so far, so possibly he's starting to feel his legs a bit now. The sun is bringing it out in him now. Kimmage on the attack on the hill bar climb.
So Paul Kimmage then going clear here, chasing 4 points towards the King of the Mountains climb. And a good break by Paul here. This is the back of the group, still all together as we head out now up towards the summit.
Over they go, over the summit. It was nice to see Paul Kimmage getting a bit of glory in his own country, but of course the big battle for the King of the Mountains on between Van der Poel and Guyant. Guyant, who wears the polka dot jersey at the moment.
So there's Kimmage still clear now, but the whole field coming up behind him here. Interesting though that Adrie van der Poel seems to be making a concerted effort here, looking for the polka dot jersey of the King of the Mountains today. He's closing the gap on Marshal Guéant at the moment.
Yes, there's certainly a great battle going on between them for this jersey. I think both have their mind set on winning this jersey and taking the overall lead when we get back to Dublin now. And another attack now from the front of the group. Another rider, PMS Dawes rider there, attacking at the front of the group now and going clear.
Well, this is Daniel Webster, in fact, breaking clear here. 29 miles into today's long stage. It's an awful long way to go, Pat, almost 100 miles. Daniel Webster, but we know him as a lone break specialist. First-year professional. I wonder whether he really is thinking of a long one, or does he want somebody to come out of that bunch?
I'm sure he probably would like some other riders to join him, but Webster, a very good time trialist, and we've known it from the past, has had a great amateur career in time trials, and now is out on his own, and it's good to see him come back and have a go. On the Woodford climb now, just a little bypass off the main road before they drop down into Woodford, and it's quite a steep little climb. Not, you know, for these riders, probably not very, very difficult. It's not all that long, maybe 3/4 mile long, but Webster riding up it very, very smoothly.
And he certainly looks well here, but there's trouble at the back of the bunch on the narrow roads here as the riders continue to struggle. And this number 63, I think, was Henri Abadi there at the back of the race. He's in some difficulty, but this not for Daniel Webster at the front here, because this man, by the way, has been the British hill climb champion, and before he turned professional this year, he's won over 40 medals as a British champion or a placed rider in a British championship. One of them, a speciality in the hill climb, is over the top there of Woodford Hill and takes the maximum points. The rest of the bunch coming up now, and watch for the battle here between Adrie van der Poel and Marshal Guéant. Van der Poel in the green jersey there as points leader at the moment, and I don't in fact see, Pat, the polka dot jersey yet of Marshal Guéant.
Now Guéant, I think, actually wearing a tracksuit top over his polka dot jersey there. We can see him there in second place just behind Van der Poel. Van der Poel now leading out the sprint. Guéant trying to come past him, and it's a very close sprint. It's going to be very close between the two of them, but Van der Poel just holding out there and taking second place, Guéant third.
So, the King of the Mountains, as you can see, Van der Poel getting ahead of Guéant, the man who is wearing the polka dot jersey overnight, in a very interesting battle indeed.
Now that situation there, as we look at Webster here now, we've moved a little bit further along the course. The official time gap now is 9 minutes, but we're heading out towards Knocknagower, and this will be a crucial climb, the second category climb, because Adrie van der Poel has now closed to within 1 point of Marshal Guéant. And this is Daniel Webster, and he's getting the sort of gap he may have anticipated, Pat, but surely he needs some help now.
He surely should need help, but he's on the climb of Knocknagower now and riding very strongly, and a rider like him is so experienced in time trials and has ridden so many of them, as we're looking at confirmation now of the leader's gap now 9 minutes at this stage. He can pace himself over the distance. He's ridden a 100-mile time trial in the past, and he knows how to pace himself over that distance now. Further back the field now, leaving the town of Doomgraney, we can see the main field now not really reacting, or a little bit of chasing going on. One of the cast riders there trying to raise the speed a little bit.
Well, look at the face here of Daniel Webster, the perspiration running freely, but at last Daniel Webster, after his first year as a professional, dogged by injury. He didn't really start racing until around July this year. He's popped up with one time trial win over 50 miles and one road race win down in South Wales. and this would certainly be the great victory if it come his way. An awful long way still to go. We're now almost at the top here of Knocknagower, and Darrell Webster at the moment surely not thinking of anything more than to keep on taking the mountain points here and hope that somebody perhaps comes up to join him. And the main field led here by, I think it's Sean Yates on the front, the man who won in Tralee a year ago. Remember that breakaway? At one stage, Yates held a lead of 24 minutes before he won in Tralee by 10. I wonder now if the thought's in Darrell Webster's mind.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure he's thinking of going for home now, and all really depends on what the reaction comes from behind us. We're watching the sprint for second place once again. Van der Poel going very close there to the TV camera, and Van der Poel now just about holding off Guyant again, taking that sprint for second place, and Guyant third, but a very, very close tussle, just about held it, I think.
Well, there's the situation there, and what's happened here with Darrell Webster at the front, and it looks to me as though his back tyre is flat. Now, is it his back wheel puncture? Now let's see how quick his team here can handle this. It's his front wheel, in fact. The front wheel is out, and this looks like a reasonable change. Webster's not panicking at all. He's sitting astride his bike. He never got off his bike, and a very good change indeed, Pat.
A very good change, probably about 10, maybe 12 seconds, and I don't think he's really lost anything there now. It just shows you what these mechanics can do when they're put to it, as we're looking at Killaloe now, and the main field crossing the bridge from Killaloe over to Ballinaber before they head out around the other side of Lough Derg.
There's the situation of the King of the Mountains. As you can see that Webster's performances today are bringing him up in the overall positions, but Van der Poel once again ahead of Marshall Guyant.
Well, that climb of Knocknagower there means that Van der Poel now holds a 1-point lead in the King of the Mountains competition, Pat. It's swung around. Guyant now is it back to second place.
Looking back now with Webster, and he's settled down and riding very, very strongly now. Nicely tucked in, hands, elbows bended, and he really now riding strong and going for home all the way.
Well, another day in the mountains here. We're over the top of the climb there now of Portrou, and Webster is really racing as strong as he was racing, in fact, when he broke away at 29 miles. And the beautiful scenery here as we look down now with the whole field very, very tightly packed together. But the speed over the ground of this bunch, it's no longer the slow ride of the last 2 days. This bunch now trying to limit a man who's taken on the best riders in the world, and is certainly not now going to wait for them.
Certainly not. Back now with the main field as they're sprinting for that second place again on the climb of Portrou, and it's Van der Poel leading out the sprint and taking the sprint there from Guyant again. Martin Early also in this picture.
So the confirmation is that has meant that Andrea Van der Poel is now in the lead of the King of the Mountains competition. We're now approaching Nina and the second hot spot of the day.
So there are Nina. Webster, of course, has gone through. He gets another 3 seconds time bonus. These the cheers for the main field here, and another cracking sprint from the field, and the crowd today enjoying the sunshine and shouting the Nissan Classic all the way to the line. So it looks like Brian Smith here from Scotland on the front, and is he being challenged by Eric van der Orden? Yes, he is, and a close finish indeed. We'll wait for confirmation.
Van der Orden gets it from Brian Smith, the Scottish amateur. An excellent result for him.
And so the happy face of Eric van der Orden. But now let's go back up to the leader, because this is the Pat McQuaid terror of the day here. A little narrow climb taking us up to 1,000 feet. And in fact, Darrell Webster comes here now with a lead of approaching 18 minutes and only 50 miles to go to home, and 18 minutes the gap for Darrell Webster. And this sort of climb is his speciality, because short and steep is one thing, long and steep really suits Darrell Webster.
Oh, he has been a British hill climb champion on several occasions, so this type of climb is no problem to him really, although having put in so much effort in his breakaway up to now, he's certainly probably going to feel the pinch a bit. And really is all down to how strong he is and how he can maintain his strength over the next 50 miles. Normally, as we've seen in the past on many professional cycle races, a rider gets a lead such as this, and then in the last 20 or 30 miles the field behind come and swoop down on him like vultures. If Webster can maintain his strength all the way to Limerick, there's a possibility, I think, that he could stay away.
Well, I think it was in the mind of Keith Lambert today that if Webster could break clear, which he certainly did, then by the time he got to Silver Mines, a steep climb, he was hoping a bunch would be here, and Webster will be then in the group for the finish. I think it's worked out even better for him. There's nobody within 18 minutes of him, and all the cheers on the climb for him. Although on this climb I've caught a glimpse of Joe Kelly, in fact the brother of Sean, who's come over from Carrick-on-Shore, and it's not Sean Kelly who's leading the way up at the moment. It is in fact Darrell Webster, the Englishman from Walsall. Not too far from the summit now, and Webster quite clearly by his face, suffering of course, but enjoying the climb indeed. And over the top he goes, and that now is also going to put Webster, you know, in with a challenge in the King of the Mountains today. Now we're back here with the main field, and this, Pat, has got to be now where the group put in the attack and break the field up, otherwise Webster's going to walk away with it.
Yeah, well, this is where the race is going to be decided today, really, because this group, front group now, or the back group out of the main field, should really split on the climb, and then that group, whatever group comes forward out of the main field, should really do all the chasing after Webster. And his big problem is, if a very strong group gets off the front, then they could reel him in.
And Gayon also climbing well here. The yellow jersey of Phil Anderson tucked in nicely on Gayon's shoulder. So Phil Anderson defending his lead well here, because I must tell you straight away that Darrell Webster is over 10 minutes behind overall. His lead 18. In theory at the moment he is the overall leader of the Nissan by 8 minutes. But of course, as you see now, the field is breaking up on the climb, the reaction is setting in, and once the big boys start chasing, then we can expect that lead of Darrell Webster's over the next hour and a half to 2 hours to collapse, perhaps not completely but certainly gravely.
A very good performance here, Phil, from Phil Anderson, which shows the strength he has got at the moment and shows his form is very good, and he certainly will be a very hard man to beat in this race, because he's up there on the most difficult climb of the race and staying up there with the climbing leader of the climbers competition, Marshall Gayan.
Two top men on form on this narrow road here. Gayon, the King of the Mountains, fighting back for his jersey, by the way, there. We're back up here with Darrell Webster, who's down the other side of Silver Mines now. He knows it's all downhill, well, almost to Limerick for him, but not for these two. They're pulling away now, about a minute from the summit for these two boys. Gayon hoping to fight back for his lead in the overall mountains. Phil Anderson, of course, thinking of greater things. He wants to consolidate now his overall lead in the Nissan Classic. And you're right, Pat McQuaid, because this year has been a great season for Anderson, winner of the Tour of Denmark, leader at the start of the season in Tirano Adriatico.
Yes, and a very good stage win yesterday, and now race leader. But what he has to be very careful of is this descent. It's a very, very dangerous descent with two very tight hairpins at the bottom, and Anderson is known as a fearless descender, and I'd be afraid he'd certainly want to be careful, otherwise he might find himself in the ditch.
Well, the gap is opening by these two, and again Marshall Gayon, who's having a good end to season, fourth in the World Championship in Ghent this year, and Anderson happy to follow him up the climb, because Anderson not really too worried about points for the King of the Mountains. He's more concerned with marshalling this rider here. Over the top then, Gayon gets second place, and Anderson third. That should be enough to give Marshall Gayon his lead back by the end of the day in the King of the Mountains.
So the Silver Mines always going to be significant, and as you can see, Gayon's superb performance up there in second place gives him that polka dot lead back again. Phil Anderson still very much in touch as we watch Darrell Webster head for Limerick.
And now Darrell Webster settled in again to his smooth time trialling style here, as the riders go over the top of the Preem in absolute dribs and drabs here. Those that get together at the front now will concentrate on bringing back Darrell Webster. So there's Webster now thinking of the future. These are the riders on the descent as they come gently down. That I think was Eric van der Arden went through here. Sean Kelly with his brakes on. And I can't notice at all here, Pat, the yellow jersey of the race leader, yet he went over the top of that climb in second place.
Yes, as we're just watching those riders coming down off the climb of the steps, Phil Anderson, who went over the top in second place, and there's still no sign of him coming through, so it really, I can't say where he is.
Big news is that Phil Anderson has punctured at a very critical time on the descent of the Silver Mines climb. This is exactly the same situation as happened to the bearer of the yellow jersey yesterday. It seems to be becoming a very unlucky garment in this year's Nissan.
Well, that's sad indeed, because in 2 days the leader appears to have gone out of the Nissan Classic, having had a puncture in the last 40 miles of the event. But we are now on the outskirts of Limerick, and the rider with no such worries about flat tyres today, at least now since he recovered from his puncture, is Darrell Webster, and his lead coming down now to just 9 minutes, Pat.
Yes, and this group behind now really chasing very, very hard. All the race favourites with the exception of Anderson in this chasing group, and they're really eating into that lead of Webster's at the moment.
Well, there's Martin Early now driving through, pulling through for his teammate Sean Kelly. And rumours today, in fact, that eventually the 4 Irish riders in this race may well be combining together to form a new team for next season. That's the rumour of the moment. What's going on down here at the moment? Because this looks like Webster is slowing down, Pat. And that's the Assistant Chief Commissaire there, Jerry McDade. And they're turning him round. I think, in fact, Pat, he's gone off course.
Yes, he has. On the roundabout previous, he should have turned right, in actual fact, and he went straight on. And he has gone off course. It hasn't cost him a lot of time, but it has given this group another little bit of incentive to try and get closer to him.
Well, that's a bonus, because the lead of Webster was coming down rapidly. It was down to 9 minutes. I suspect now he's lost another couple of minutes here, because it appears that Webster is blaming others for the problem, but he's now got to get back on the course, and as sad as though it may be, the onus in all cases in international cycle racing is on the rider himself. So Webster now in Limerick City, his lead confirmed to be down to a shade over 7 minutes as he comes up now to commence 3 full circuits of the city.
Yeah, 3 4.5-mile circuits and an absolutely amazing crowd, as always happens in Limerick City for the Nissan Classic. A huge crowd out to greet him as he goes up O'Connell Street through the finish line for the first time with 3 seconds to go.
So Darrell Webster now, and he's not going to surely now lose this race, because 7 minutes lead as he goes on for these 3 laps should be enough. The man has recovered from a flat tyre today. He's recovered from going off course, where I estimate he must have lost around 2 minutes. And now he's on the finishing circuit. And as always, Pat, the crowd here in Limerick, absolutely marvellous.
Yes, all the way around the circuit, the crowd are lined and are greeting him. And this is going to be very good encouragement for him, because he's suffering now, obviously suffering, having been out in front for over 100 miles at this stage. And the crowd will lift him and keep him going there. So hopefully he can hold on to that lead right to the finish. And certainly I think he deserves it, and nobody would begrudge him the victory.
Well, absolutely not. A man that's taken on the best riders in the world after 2 days of stalemate. At last we found a rider with the courage to gamble on the long one, and it looks as though it might well work now, because this crowd being treated to a Darrell Webster at his very, very best. A year ruined almost by injury, his first year as a professional, and for the first 6 months he couldn't even ride the bike. But now, as the season draws to an end, Darrell Webster is going clear to what will certainly be his most impressive victory of his career. Let's have a look at the bunch at the moment. There's Webster taking a drink, while here is the bunch now coming through the finish, led by Martin Early. Eric Caritou has gone through, Van Hooydonk's gone through, and the official time gap now 6 minutes and 30 seconds.
6 minutes 30 seconds, but still a lot to do for these riders, and they really have to pull it out if they're going to catch Webster. But it's a big group, a strong group. All the strong men are there. Sean Yates now moving to the front and really driving it on. Early goes back. Van Hooydonk also riding very well, doing his piece at the front also.
What a great rider Sean Yates, and what a great season he's having. Ever since he won in Tralee a year ago, this rider has gone from strength to strength. This year, of course, a stage win in the Tour de Spain, a marvellous stage win in the Tour de France, the race leader in Paris-Nice with a stage win. He's the man now driving that field up towards Darrell Webster, as we are now out or coming round to complete the first of 3 full circuits for Darrell here. And judging by the look on his face, almost 100 miles in the saddle, the pain now is beginning to tell.
Yes, we can see how he's changing position quite often from the bottom of the bars to the top of the bars. At this point in time, he would be finding it very difficult to get relaxed on the bike. He would have pains in his back and pains in his legs, and keeps trying to move around to try and ease the discomfort a bit. As we're looking at this long line of riders being led by the yellow jersey of Martin Early and Van Hooydonk chasing. Peter Winnan there, and Stephen Roach in his wheel also. Stephen Roach having made the final group. Caritou, the champion of France, in the blue, white and red jersey. Although he's a teammate of Sean Kelly's and in the Cast Dublin bus team, but back with the leader Webster as he comes into O'Connell Street for the second time with 2 laps to go, and is about to take this hotspot sprint.
And that's 3 seconds bonus, but Darrell Webster now is not racing for the yellow jersey. The big field has closed that gap down. His 10 minutes deficit overnight. He had that at one stage, but that's gone now. The gap is down to around 6 minutes, and all of the cast team are now doing the chasing to try and bring him back. There's Stephen Roach, Pat.
Yes, looking very comfortable.
Roach, Pat.
Yes, looking very comfortable, and it's good to see. The couple of days now of racing is bringing the form back to him a bit now, and it's good to see him being able to put a bit of effort in.
So don't forget that Stephen Roach has come to this race with a cyclist complaint, which is conjunctivitis. It's caused by all the dust that they keep crashing through on the open road. He's receiving again tremendous help there from Robert Miller, who has been the lieutenant of Stephen Roach all season and at times the leader of the Fagor team. But this is the man of the day, and this is probably the best team, the PMS Doors team in Britain this year. But back with the bunch here, it looks like, is it Van Hooydonk who's now leading the chase here. Miller anxious to get back to the front and chase down Darrell Webster in front. This is going to be a great finish.
All the big boys now gathering up there now and getting up around the front now. Miller moves over. Roach comes up and takes his turn at the front now. Riding very, very comfortable. As we're back now with Webster.
Still warming there, Pat, because they're leaning over the barriers here, cheering on the man they've seen in the lead ever since we came in to Limerick. And let's not forget where this rider broke away. 29 miles after the start of this 126-mile stage today, Webster went in the lead. But now we're seeing the riders coming up here to contest second and third place in the hotspot sprint. My goodness me, that's Malcolm Elliott gone through, and it looks like Rolf Goltz chasing him. And as they come to the line now, it's going to be close on the line. Elliott gets the bonus. That could be crucial today for the yellow jersey race.
And as always, Malcolm Elliott, a super sprinter right up there in the hot spots. And don't forget Webster, who's coming up in just about every category with this super ride today. There's the overall situation in the hot spots. Van der Arden still leads, but Webster's up into second place.
Well, Van der Arden, with 2 days to go, is making that hotspot sprint competition his for the white jersey. But now we are out on the final lap. Webster looking a little bit anxious, but the news is that, in fact, on that full circuit of Limerick, Webster has maintained exactly the same lead. So that should be enough now for Darrell Webster to win this stage, and I have no doubt in my mind that will go down in Darrell Webster's career book as the best victory of his life.
Here's Phil Anderson now in a chasing group behind the main field, just starting his last lap now. Anderson, very, very unfortunate now to puncture on that descent and put himself out of the overall classification, and he's now looking around trying to get riders to help him and trying to contain that time.
And there's the leader swinging in as Phil Anderson's group has gone out the top of this finishing straight. So the distance now is somewhere around 4 miles, the distance between Darrell Webster and the overnight race leader Phil Anderson. How sad for the man on form, Phil Anderson, robbed certainly of the lead today by a puncture, but no such luck for Darrell Webster. This brilliant man from Walsall has come home for the greatest win of his career, and he is in tears, and why not? Tears of joy there for Darrell Webster as we now go back to that group led by Phil Anderson, the deposed leader of the Nissan Classic. And the question now is, Pat McQuaid, who will lead tonight? Because obviously Rolf Goltz, Sean Kelly, Malcolm Elliott in this group here.
Yes, and also Andrew Van der Poel. It's really going to be any one of those 4 riders because they're all very close, and it's all going to be down to the bonus points on the finish line as to who takes the jersey.
And still it's Sean Yates pulling this race along now. He's thinking of Malcolm Elliott, of course, keeping the race high. We're back looking at Phil Anderson's group, who is now, again, Anderson working all the time as he tries now to keep the deficit respectable. There's no question now that Anderson is out of yellow. He goes through here into the lead, but the question is who will win that sprint for second place, because if Malcolm Elliott can win it, I think he'll be the leader, and if Sean Kelly wins it, then we're going to have to find out, because it goes to the computer with all these small seconds of time bonuses. Here's the big sprint now coming up. Kelly in the yellow jersey, and Kelly is the cast rider coming through as they swing into the home straight here. Sean Kelly in second place there as we go round the straight. As they come up now towards the straight, Sean Kelly looks to the right here. Where's number 1? A great piece of leading out by his teammate. Now Kelly goes, and Malcolm Elliott coming on the far right. This is going to be tight. Elliott on the right, but Kelly takes it on the line, and that throws everything up in the air now. Who is the overall leader of the Nissan Classic? as we'll get confirmation of the result there.
And there you see the replay. Kelly on the right and Malcolm Elliott desperately trying to get up to that line for those very, very important points. Has he got enough to take yellow tonight? Everybody's looking at their calculator. Here's Phil Anderson, undoubtedly the loser today, but still putting on a brave performance as it comes up to the line and a burst sprint again.
So Anderson then comes in, but too far behind to matter anymore in the Nissan Classic.
What about this heartbreak right at the very end where you went the wrong way?
I was very, very annoyed with a few people. It's one of those things. Unfortunately, it seems to be a frequent occurrence with in big events. People make these big blunders, but it could have cost me the stage win if things had been closer. But fortunately, it didn't. So I'm happy. But had it cost me the stage win, I would have been very, very, very annoyed.
Did it keep you out of yellow?
I don't know. I wasn't going for yellow. I was just going for the win.
And what a win it was. 3 minutes 30 seconds ahead of the rest of the field. So Darrell Webster very much the hero of Limerick tonight. And there you see Sean Kelly, Elliott next up. And here is the man who, despite the total exhaustion, the emotion is breaking through there. So a very, very happy moment in a young professional's career. Van der Arden, Eric Van der Arden there, the sprint leader, keeps the white jersey. And then we have, after that tremendous battle today, Marshall Gayon, who keeps the King of Mountains jersey. But the huge welcome, of course, here in Limerick going out for Sean Kelly, who puts on the green jersey as the points leader. So calculations still going on as to who's going to take yellow tonight. A very close situation indeed, and the whole field has closed up in overall classification. But Sean Kelly, once again, the hero of the moment in Ireland. And yellow goes to Malcolm Elliott, a very popular man in Ireland, in, of course, the ever-ready team there. And there's confirmation of the overall situation, and look how close is it. Just 2 seconds between Elliott and Kelly. Van der Poel also very much in the picture with 4 seconds behind. You had a great day.
Yes, well, it was a very good day considering the way we started out this morning. The first stage to Boyle, when Levin won the stage and he was over 30 seconds ahead, I said it would be very difficult to take the jersey from him. And then it changed about yesterday and Anderson took it by more than 30 seconds, and I said, well, the race is, it's going to be more difficult now to take it from Anderson because he's riding very, very well at this moment. But yes, puncture's the wrong time. I've eliminated the leaders each day, and if it continues tomorrow, well, then I might take over the leadership very, very easy. But I'm very happy I'm back in the race and in a good position, and the form is good but not super, but I think in the position I'm in now, like, it'll give me an extra boost, morale boost, and I'm going nearer to home, each day. I have more supporters, and I'll just give it everything and do my best.
Well, this is the last day out in the country for the Nissan Classic. As the 98 runners leave Shannon here, they go down the road past Bunratty Castle. Then there's a Category 1 climb before they reach Limerick, on through Tipperary town, the Glenavahar Low, that's Category 2. And then they move up the main Cork road, passing on their way Mitchelstown, Fermoy, and finally to Cork on a new circuit there. There's 111 miles, there's 5 hot spots, and there's 3 climbs, and that's the format for day 4. But up at the top, it just couldn't be closer. First of all, you've got Malcolm Elliott with only 2 seconds advantage over the great Sean Kelly. Van der Poel is just a further 2 seconds behind. Early up a place from 8th to 7th, and of course Stephen Roach up a place from 10th to 9th.
Malcolm, there's a few people here saying this morning that wearing the yellow jersey is the kiss of death in the Nissan Classic this year. 2 leaders, 2 punctures. What do you say?
That's right. Well, I'm just busy doing last-minute checks on my bike at the moment, seeing there's nothing can go wrong.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, I've never known it, and it has made me think twice about it. Obviously, I'd rather have it and lose it than never have it at all.
Rolf, you're getting closer to the yellow jersey. Do you still feel confident?
Yes, it's all open. The race is open. It only goes for the bonifications at this moment, and it's other sprints that make the difference. And I hope that I can also win a sprint, possibly for the stage win or so. But we must see. We are very close together.
Adri, apart from Sean Kelly, you're the most consistent rider in the Nissan Classic, and there's a lot of people here this year saying that you're going to win in Dublin tomorrow. What do you say?
I hope so.
Will you try for the win?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Because for me it's a nice race to win, because it's the fourth time I've been here. The first time I was second, then I was sixth and fifth. And I hope for me this time is a good one to win it, because every race to win it's very important.
With 5 hot spots today, I mean, can you possibly try and attempt to go for all 5 of them, or is that too damaging?
Well, depending what the other riders do, I suppose, but depending on where the race develops and everything, it's possible they can make all 5.
Now, you were a little bit critical about the first hot spot being very close to the start.
Well, yeah, it's very close to the start, and if you start a bit far back in the bunch, well, then it's very hard to get up in that distance. But yes, the hot spot is on, and you just have to try and make it.
What about these special sprints? Because you and Sean Kelly always seem to finish up deadly rivals in the Nissan.
That's true. I think these hotspot sprints, I shall really see how it goes, see who else is disputing them. I won't be trying to go for every single one of them myself unless I'm forced into it. There are 5 today, so it's going to be very hard. Even just to, it's going to be like a sprint for the finish 5 times already today. So.
Today's stage from Shannon here to Cork is going to be a very, very vital stage. For Sean Kelly, I don't think he can really relax. He's got to go for every bonus point he can get. And only just 1 mile after the start, we've got our first hotspot sprint, so it's going to be a very, very hairy sprint. Elliott's going to be up there, Kelly's going to be up there trying to take those 3, 2 and 1 second bonuses. All the way along the route, it's going to be a similar situation. So anything can happen today. Kelly could end up in yellow this evening, or he could wait and try and do it tomorrow, but he's got to take every opportunity he can get.
And the first opportunity that Sean Kelly gets is just 1 mile from the start, and the first of those hotspot sprints right in Shannon.
And already one rider in trouble there, but the race is very much on now as they switch across the carriageways here. The first hotspot sprint, never before in the Nissan has the opening sprint of the penultimate day been so important. Malcolm Elliott, by the way, takes that. That's a 3-second bonus for Elliott, and Eric van der Orden will have been second. There's confirmation.
And it's Elliott, and that's just exactly what he wanted to do. He needs those bonuses badly to consolidate his lead in the yellow at the moment.
And now, as the race rests from that first sprint, it looks here as though Sean Yates, Pat, is going clear. Now, this is a specialist attack by Yates. He does this so often.
He does indeed, but we've seen him do it before last year going into Tralee. He took off early at the stage and won the stage.
What's happening here at the back of the race? Because it looks to me as though there might have been somebody falling off here. It was a very sharp right-hand bend, and somebody's on the... My goodness me, it's Stephen Roach, Pat, on the floor.
Yes, let's hope he's okay. There was a very sharp hairpin bend at that stage, and obviously Stephen rubbed the wheel and down he went, and he certainly looks a little bit hurt at the moment.
Well, this has been a year for Stephen Roach, hasn't it? He spent a lot of time on the floor, Liège-Bastogne-Liège, of course, his big comeback race after his knee problem this year. He was involved in all the sorts of problems there. And after last year, it really is so disappointing for Stephen, but I know him so well, he will be back for sure. We're back with the leader now, and this is the first climb of the day, and Sean Yates leading by just over 2 minutes on the climb of Gallows Hill. Another, if I may say, a Pat McQuaid special. Pat, you must know Ireland so well.
Well, yes, indeed. No, it's this climb is about 5 miles long. Very much like a continental climb, not all that steep, and just goes up in stages really. And problem with it is coming early in the stage as it does. The riders have only ridden 10 mile at this stage, and suddenly they face this 5 mile long climb. So Yates now settling into a nice rhythm and riding up a steady, as we're looking at Roach here now, chasing in the race convoy, trying to regain his place in the field.
Oh, that's good to see. Stephen Roach, perhaps if he'd been abroad today, might have thought of retiring. He would never think of that on Irish roads, because Stephen Roach has done something that only one other man in the world's ever done, and that's win the Tours of Italy, France and the World Championship. He did that last year. We're now back with the leaders here. They're chasing Sean Yates. He's heading up towards the top of Gallows Hill, but a little bit lower down. Interesting to note that it's the team of Rolf Goltz here, the Super Confex team, who are keeping this bunch very much in the action.
Yes, and they're obviously moving up the hill very fast, because we can see behind there, you can't see the team cars. The bunch is actually split into about 3 parts at this stage.
So Sean Yates then, a winner of the Tour of Spain stage this year, let me say that, and also a winner of a stage in the Tour de France this year. Inside 200 yards to go now. He'll get maximum points on the top of the mountains, but he's more interested now in riding clear of the bunch in defence of Malcolm Elliott, because he wants the rest of the race to chase him and take the pressure off overall leader Malcolm Elliott, his Fagor Everready teammate. Over the top of the climb then for Sean Yates, zipping up the collar there. He's on the way down, but the main field here on the way up, and the scenery absolutely marvellous with the backdrop of the River Shannon in the back of the picture there. Now 40 miles an hour down for Sean Yates here. Remember, this is the man who has set a record in the Tour de France this year for the fastest ever individual time trial outside of the prologue. And the whole field now cracking a little bit, I think, on the way up the climb. An island in the autumn never looked more beautiful, Pat.
No, certainly not, as we're looking at one of the System U riders now leading up from possibly Marshall Guyant there in the Toshiba Top, the leader of the mountains classification, now going for those at second place, or going for take the points on the mountains classification, and nobody really contesting that sprint.
No, you're right there, Pat. In fact, I think the referees will be getting a little bit annoyed here with Gayon, because he's refusing in the early parts of the day to wear the leader's jersey. He's already been warned for that, and here he comes now. He's not wearing his leader's jersey. He's over the top in second place. Anderson looked to me as though he was third. Maybe Leven was in fourth place.
And indeed, Marshall Guyant has very much made the mountains his property. Roche coming through there. We're delighted to see a very quick recovery, showing what a true professional he is. And there's confirmation of that Gallows Hill climb. You see Guyant in second place, Phil Anderson and Levine. Those are the two riders who've had such bad luck on this event.
Interesting, though, that as we now head into Limerick, that Sean Yates here is still clear. We're back where we started from this morning, of course. The race overnighting in Limerick went out to Shannon this morning, and now they are back to Limerick on the way going towards Cork. Yates is still clear, and we've seen him ride so well this year in defence of everybody else in the Fagor Everready team. We go right back to the Paris-Nice this year, Pat, where he was the leader, and now he's doing it again, now in defence of Malcolm Elliott.
Yes, and he just took that hotspot sprint there in William Street in Limerick now, so we're looking at the group going down the descent down off Gallows Hill.
So look at that line there. The riders, what's happening here? Sean Yates, I think, Pat, he's had word from his team manager, that's the car just on the right of our picture here, that he is being caught, and it appears that the energy will not be wasted because it's a long way to go. Sandwich it out the window, Pat, for the rest of the day.
Yes, a little bit illegal actually, because he's not supposed to get them only in the feeding sections.
I'm not sure he even likes what he's getting. But there he is, he's waiting for the whole field, and there's Alan is the result in Limerick.
Well, of course, Yates was well ahead there with the 5-point bonus. Van der Arden making the sprints more or less his own property, as Gayant has done in the mountains. But interesting to see Gayant up there in that one.
Right, now the whole field together, and Sean Kelly's teammate, I think it was Thomas Wegmuller, in the lead. What's this? Tipperary welcomes the Nissan and the world. Never truer than this year, Pat, after 4 years, because this has got to be the best field ever seen.
It certainly is. Riders from, as it said there, from all over the world in this year's Nissan. As we're looking at the riders now coming up towards the hotspot sprint in Tipperary. A little group at the front of the bunch now trying to detach themselves from the front of it.
And there's 4 or 5 riders down there, but I don't see, in fact, at the moment, any of the contenders. Malcolm Elliott's made a good start to the day, picking up 3 seconds over Sean Kelly at Shannon, but this sprint doesn't contain any of the top men overall. Indeed, it's Dave Mann from the Rally Banana team here who takes it first over the line. So there they are, the race goes on.
Dave Mann then confirmed, and a few new names in that one, so that was rather surprising really, because these hotspots are so critical at this stage.
So the field is all together now as they continue over the sprint here in Tipperary, but the next stop now for the riders will be the famous Glen of Aholo climb, and that's next on the agenda today as the riders roll on towards Cork. The weather is now very cold, and we've had showers of rain And I have to say the weather is most unpleasant today for the riders. They've had 3 days of being battered by the weather, a brief respite yesterday as we rolled down towards Limerick, but we're back to the cold weather today. And look at this, the riders wearing long arm warmers, and the jersey there in the centre with the white and red marks on it is Marshal Guéant, at last in his true colour as the overall leader in the King of the Mountains.
Yes, indeed. And riders now on the climb. This climb, the Glen of Arlow, only about a mile and a half, 2 mile long. Not very steep. Again, a nice steady climb, wooded for the most part, and riders riding up it nice and steadily. Martin Early leading the group from Marshal Guéant, Phil Anderson there in the yellow hat, and on the right it looks like Johan Lammerts of the Toshiba team also.
So there we are, the wind also rising a little bit now. In fact, it's coming right on the face of the riders here, and if you remember the opening day of the Nissan Classic, that kept them down to a slow pace, and one must say, why not? Look across now, the beauty of Ireland. We're back down now with the leaders of the peloton, the big bunch here, as the French call it, and working hard. On the left of the picture there, just peeping into the camera, is Eric van der Aarden, who seems now to have made the sprint section at least his. What a great day out tomorrow we're going to have around Dublin City, though, because that will really be a celebration, not just for Dublin, but for the coming home of the Nissan Classic. In the middle of the picture on the climb then up the Glen of Ahalow, we've got the climber Marshal Guéant, who's celebrating his best season in his career as a professional as he moves towards the top now.
And we're looking at a good shot there from behind of one of the Wyman Swiss riders there with his legs covered up, indicating the cold that they're going through today. Another one of his teammates there looks like Nicky Reutemann of the Wyman team, one of the Swiss riders in this event.
Well, this is a new team, of course, Pat. Cost over £2.5 million to put on the road this year, the La Suisse Wyman. They're changing sponsors, in fact, next year. But Steve Bauer, who leads that team, back in action next year. Now we're working our way steadily up to the top of the Glen of Ahalow, and it looks to me as though the Toshiba boys working very hard. Inside 200 yards to go now for their man Marshal Guéant. All being well tomorrow in Dublin, surely Marshal Guéant, the man on the inside in the white jersey, and Jos Lammerting here nearest the camera. We're going to see Guéant as the winner of the King of the Mountains tomorrow. He will work hard tomorrow, I'm sure, but he's riding so well today. He seems to have shrugged off the challenge being received by Adrie van der Poel, but he was certainly pipped on the line there by Phil Anderson. And we'll get confirmation of that very shortly from Alan.
And how nice it is to see Phil Anderson getting a bit of glory out of that after all that hard luck yesterday. Guéant, as always, in the frame, and Galt's coming up there in third place. That could be important.
Well, we're off the Glen now, heading down into Mitchelltown. This is the scene of the next hotspot sprint, and it's led by Tim Harris. Here's Sean Yates, the breakaway earlier, back in the bunch in second place there. Always attentive, Pat, looking over his shoulder, the whereabouts of Malcolm Elliott, I suspect.
Yes, certainly. He's a terrific man to have on a team with you, is Sean Yates, one of the best teammates that you can have. But news has come through now from the race that of the retirement of Steve Bauer at the feeding station. Bauer ill overnight, suffering from a very bad cold. The condition just got them today, and he's retired. And as we're looking now, Sean Yates leading out the sprint, obviously for Malcolm Elliott. Malcolm Elliott won't be far behind, with Yates leading out up the street of Mitchelstown.
And so Elliott coming up towards the line, and in Mitcheltown, this is going to be a good sprint because Malcolm Elliott building steadily his lead. Look at this now, the white jersey on the left of the road, that's Eric van der Aarden. He's also making this championship his own. He's over the line first. Well done, Eric van der Aarden, and there we are now, look at that.
And that's really significant because Elliott once again has gained another second on Kelly.
Absolutely, so Malcolm Elliott is making the best so far as we have a nice view across the countryside of Ireland.
Yes, so we're looking at the rain now coming down. One of the Scottish amateurs there. And looks like TVM rider there, Siemens I think it is, of the TVM TNT team. Paul Kimmage from Dublin now, showing a little break here now, breaking away. Henry Manders of the Wyman Swiss team now. This is on the climb of Cloughamara outside Mitchelstown, and these riders now, 8 or 9 riders now drawing clear, only about 15-20 seconds clear at the moment. You can see the riders and the chasers here now, all well covered up from the rain.
And now we're seeing the rain coming down. The riders have been back to the cars, most of them for their racing capes here. because these are most unpleasant conditions. There is a little group going clear. We know that Rob Holden of the Bilton team is up there. We know too, as Pat has said, Henri Manders is there for the Wyman team, and Paul Kimmage of Ireland. This has been not a great year for Paul, but he's now beginning to fight back, and that is the way a professional cyclist must do it, and he must keep on trying. Now look at this. Here is the gap here. It looks to me as though we've got possibly here Hans Darms trying to get across the gap here. But as we go forward a little bit, one rider in no man's land, it is Hans Darms, is trying to cross the gap, relaxed style, taking in the breath deeply, riding on the top. This is Rob Holden here now on the top of the climb, and Brian Smith of Scotland in the blue jersey. Also going through there now, Henri Manders in the white jersey, Paul Kimmage on the left of the picture. An interesting group, this, Pat.
Yes, it is an interesting group, because really there's nobody there that has a big effect on the overall classification. And if they get over the top of this climb and go down the other side and gain some more time, that could be a way for the day, because the danger men behind, or the big men behind, possibly have nothing really to lose by allowing this breakaway group go.
Well, it looks to me as though possibly Darms has come on to the back of this group, but not too far behind. The whole field is fighting their way back. And finally, this is the sprint for the top now. Rob Holden going here from the Bilton team, the find of the year in Britain, by the way. And Rob Holden now riding well. Manders is challenging him here, and a close finish there right on the line. Again, we'll get confirmation as soon as we can.
And it was Holden. Manders in second place, but it's great to see Kimmage up in third. That's the second time he's figured on the mountains in this event, and we've got 3 Irishmen in the top 10, and Paul Kimmage getting some good notice on the hills.
Now the riders attacking fast and furiously here, but it looks to me as though the main field has crept up to the back end of this as we're heading now down to Fermoy. And Scottish amateur on the front there. I think again it was Brian Smith. He really is riding well this year. But as we go down now towards Fermoy, we've got the scene there of the next hotspot sprint. That again is desperately important for the riders who matter. But this looks like Simon's having a go from the TVM team, and look at the gap he's opening. He's not important to the race overall. This is what Sean Kelly wants to see, I would think, Pat.
Oh, I would think so. It would mean that if a rider like Siemens gets away, it means that the bonuses are being taken by the riders that don't really matter, and it stops Elliott gaining any more time on Kelly.
And just look at that now, the whole race under pressure, long line now, but one rider is really going clear here as he works his way down the hill now. The conditions now very slippery indeed, calling for a lot more skill than just racing your bike. You have to have a lot of nerve as well now as the races go downhill at something like 45 miles an hour.
Yes, and these road conditions are treacherous at the moment, because when they get to the bottom of the hill in Fermoy, they cross over the bridge, and then they've got a very sharp right-hand turn, and a road will be, such as the condition it's in at the moment, will be absolutely dangerous, because it's very slippy, and the riders have to be very careful going around.
Well, seeing the teammate here of Phil Anderson go clear, I often ask myself the question this week of what Phil is feeling like, having lost the stage, the lead rather, yesterday with that puncture, because I believe that Anderson is going so well. But here's now, we're coming up towards the line here in Fermoy. and the leader and the winner, no doubt, of that sprint will be Simons, as the rest of the riders come over the top.
And once again, the news is very good, because Elliott has again gained a second over Kelly, and this is exactly what he intended to do.
And Malcolm Elliott has now built himself a lead over Sean Kelly of 7 seconds as the whole field heads towards Cork.
Welcome back, and it's another city centre finish on the Nissan, and the drizzle hasn't deterred the thousands of spectators in Ireland's second city as the race arrives in Cork.
That's absolutely true indeed, Alan, but in fact during the cold rain today 8 riders at least have abandoned the Nissan Classic, and we're now looking down at the attacks which are coming towards the finish here. This looks to me, Pat, as though Pascal Pédemur of France and the Z Peugeot team is on the attack to chase this man here.
Yes, this rider, a Dutch amateur rider, attacked about 20 miles to go just before Rathmichael. Joost van Adrichem, and his maximum lead he got was actually about 35 seconds. He's just been told there now from the car that his lead is coming down, that there's one rider chasing him, and that he really has got a lot of work to do if he wants to stay away on the circuit.
Well, if you want to be a top professional rider, you've got to put your nose out front and make an impression for the sponsors who may put up the money, and that's exactly what Joost van Adrichem is doing at the moment. He's an accomplished rider. He had 8 wins in the world last year. He is now probably in his last season as an amateur, thinking of next year as a professional. There he is, and the orange jersey of the Netherlands. They're quite infamous here in the Nissan Classic. Remember Johannes Dreyer, the great friend of Jimmy McGee, who's always been on the attack in the Nissan. He's in the race this year as a professional, and there they are now, the whole field streaming into the city of Cork for what should be another grand finale.
Certainly should, as we're looking at the Panasonic team now working very well together in chase. Obviously they want to keep the whole thing together for Eric van der Aarden. This finish today would certainly suit van der Aarden. A lovely big flat finishing straight as we're looking at the main field. The yellow there of Malcolm Elliott, we saw the green jersey of Sean Kelly. All the riders, all the main riders' contention up there.
So the whole field coming in here. There's Darrell Webster, number 100, the man who really was the hero of yesterday going into Limerick. Still in the main field now. His ambition very well achieved here in the Nissan. He's won a stage.
And as we're looking at the main field, just going along Horgan's Quay there and heading in towards the finishing straight, back now with the leader who's turning up into South Mall for the first time with 3 laps to go, and a great crowd here to greet him on this finish in South Mall. The first time we've used this, very much a feature of the Nissan in the past has been the circuit on St Patrick's Hill. Moved away from it this year into a city centre circuit on South Mall, and certainly it looks to have been a very good idea.
Well, from an outsider looking in, Pat, I suggest you've chosen this circuit because of the popularity of the Nissan Classic. Simply too many people wanted to crowd up the finishing hill that we've seen normally for the finish here in Cork, and so now to spread it out a bit, and look at the crowd down there as they're seeing the whole race stream in now to the centre of the city of Cork. This has been a great finish. Cork has become a great finish on the Nissan Classic, and this is going to be no exception. The whole field now can see the 2 leaders inside. We caught a glimpse there of Pascal Pédemur. This is Steve Sefton having a go off the front now. He won the last stage of the milk race when we came into Birmingham, and the whole field now not too far behind him. Let's have a look now where we are. Coming up towards this, the back of the field here, and 1 or 2 riders now having a little bit of trouble here as they streak through the centre of the city. Back with the leader, Pat.
Back with the leader now, Van Adrichem, as he's heading up, just coming up from Proby's Quay and now heading up just past St Finbarr's Cathedral and around into Greg Road. Slightly rising section of the circuit here, and certainly telling on him now because he's starting to suffer a bit out of the saddle, trying to get every bit of effort into it, and as he heads out towards the lock, and he's still on his own but still a very slender lead, only about 15 seconds at the moment.
He's a calm character though, Pat. I mean, I've taken a look at his face over this last 20 miles he's been in the lead. He's never actually shown any expression on his face at all, and he stayed away from this very class field. There he is on the left of the picture now, and a great chase here by Pascal Pédemur from the Z Peugeot Halfords team as we're going in now. We're working our way back down by the side of the lock there, and this is the bridging of the gap here. Look at this crowd. Let's say we're out in the country here at the moment on the circuit, and the crowd absolutely enormous.
Yes, all the way along this area now as we're going down Pierce Road. Wet and greasy and slippy. Very, very treacherous conditions. These riders have to be careful on the bends, but they're getting great support from the crowd here. Terrific crowd along through Ballyfahan as we watch Perrimore just making the junction with Van Adrichem. Now we've 2 riders in the lead and the main field only 15 seconds behind, and a very big chase going on from behind, as we can see looking at the bunch in one long line going down Pierce Road.
And boys in green there, one of the Irish amateur riders. Remember that in due respect to them, this is their second team from Ireland, because of course the first team is over in Seoul where they completed the Olympic road race. But even so, this team more than accomplished its ambition here, because riding as an amateur against the top professional bike riders is really extremely daunting. But one man here having no trouble on the front is the young Irish amateur Joost van Adrichem. Now look at the whole field here. They're chasing down the 2 men in the lead. There is no gap. It's coming through to us now. The gap, in fact, along the Anglesey Street down towards South Mall is, in fact, a scant 10 seconds. And so a long gamble by the Dutchman, joy by the Frenchman. We're up into the home straight again. What will be the finish very shortly. But watch down that bottom corner, because the main field now, and here they come, is not very far behind indeed. This is now, remember the bonus seconds here. We can't overemphasize these bonus seconds. There's Malcolm Elliott, shadowed by Sean Kelly. This is going to be yet again a cracking finish. 2 riders in the lead, Pat, but only just.
Only just, and there's no doubt in my mind that these 2 riders are going to be caught, because there's far too much at stake. A bonus of 10 seconds for the winner, 8 seconds for second, 6 seconds for third, and 4 seconds for fourth means that these riders back here will want to hold those positions. They'll want to go for those bonuses. As we look at Mark Walsham and the Percy Bilton team leading through, Nicky Reutemann going through in second place, looking really now watching for the yellow jersey and the green jersey. The yellow jersey just at the head of that second group with Sean Kelly. Now back with the 2 leaders. Their lead a slender 10 seconds as they're heading up past St Finbarr's Cathedral again and back up to Greg Road.
So a final deep breath here for the Dutch amateur rider Van Adrichem, and being trailed by Pascal Perrimore. He's had a hard chase to catch up with the Dutchman, the only man that's succeeded so far to get him, but he's not working so well as one might expect. And I must say, the Z Peugeot Halfords team, they would like a stage win here in Ireland at the moment, as we're running round the city of Cork now and seeing some of the most beautiful scenery.
Yes, it's certainly looking beautiful from the air at the moment. There's no doubt. St Finbarr's Cathedral there. You look at the riders go weaving their way around past them, and back with the 2 leaders. Van Adrichem doing most of the work now of the 2-man group, and let's face it, he's been away for the past 25 miles into a very strong headwind. So as you said just a moment ago, it certainly is great credit to him to continue to really dig in and go for the finish. But at this point in time, he's committed. He's got to go for it.
Well, there's a lot of danger here. Look at this now as they're starting to catch up now with the 2 leaders. As they came onto this circuit, we've just discovered that in fact Christophe Leven, the stage winner of a couple of days ago and the early leader, he has in fact crashed and is limping behind the race, and Charlie Motte, no less, has stopped to help him back home. So there's friendship for you. Charlie Motte, of course, the yellow jersey in the Tour de France 1 year ago. Now we're looking down on the River Lee as we swing back to the riders here. Still the 2 of them in tandem just in front of the whole field, and the whole field now, Pat, are going to get them, and that's for sure.
They certainly are, and I noticed going around at the front of the field 3 Panasonic riders, so obviously they're there doing the work for Van der Aarden, and this finish would really suit Van der Aarden very well. He's sprinting magnificently at the moment as we're looking at the ceiling sprint here now. Who's going to take the ceiling sprint? These 2 riders still slightly clear. Van Adrichem trying to go by Perrimore and just takes it. Van Adrichem takes the ceiling sprint, Perrimore second, and the main field only a mere 2 or 3 metres behind, led by the Panasonics.
And in fact that was Teun van Vliet who came over there in 3rd place, but he's done his job. Teun has. He's brought the race back into contact. Remember, Eric van der Aarden won a stage in Galway a couple of years ago. Now he's back in the race again here, as there begin to be a few gaps at the front of the race here. The crucial last lap, Pat.
Yes, this hill up around by St Finbarr's Cathedral leading up to Greg Road is taking its toll on them, and what we've had at the front, I think, is a bit of pressure going on. One rider has gone clear, a couple of riders have taken a few chances, a few risks after him, and it looks like we could be getting a little group getting away now. Looking there possibly is the buzz now. We're trying to make our way up, and there is a gap. There's 2 riders clear, and now the helicopter fans up further up the road. Let's see, is there another 2 or 3 riders have a fit? Yes,
4 riders gone clear, and that really is significant now, because those 4 riders, if they get their act together, work hard together, only 2 miles to the finish, can stay away.
Well, I would suspect that Malcolm Elliott would like this gap to open with those 4 riders, but looking from the helicopter down there was a rider in green. Now, if that rider turns out to be Rolf Goltz, and you can see the rider in second place here, he certainly rides with the style of Goltz, Pat. If that is Goltz, that is the wrong man as far as Elliott and Kelly are concerned to break clear at this stage.
It certainly is, because Goltz is only a few seconds behind on the overall classification at the moment. I think it's 13 behind Malcolm Elliott at the moment, and it is Goltz. Rolf Goltz in the blue overshoes there, number 47. Goltz really driving at the front end. Rolf Goltz could actually be going into a yellow jersey here. He's driving for it and going for it.
Well, he's given us the hint this morning that he wanted to do something in the Nissan Classic, and he's the man on form, and this could really turn the classification upside down. He started the day a few seconds behind the leaders, and that's the place to attack from, as 4 riders now going clear, and the man to gain at the front, Goltz.
Yes, and look who else is in the group. Phil Anderson also in that group. Obviously, it was a question of taking risks. Anderson did the attacking, took the risks on the bends along Proby's Key, and is away. And Anderson now, let's face it, he should have really still been in the leader's yellow jersey, but his puncture yesterday put him out of that. It would be great to see him come back and take us another stage win.
The roads are wet now. Pat Goltz started this morning 13 seconds behind the overall leader, Malcolm Elliott. Elliott, of course, increased his lead a little bit with those sprint bonuses, but now Goltz, number 41, is working extremely hard. Johan Muziu from the ADR team there on the right of the picture, Goltz on the left. Michel Vermont is the other man. The man on the back is Phil Anderson. Anderson comes round the corner in last position. Remember Anderson? Last time he won a stage in the Nissan Classic, he won 2. This is Sean Yates jumping away here. He's in 5th place. This is the big sprint now, and going out the back of the race here is the TVM rider Anderson now. Anderson trying on the outside. What's the right of the picture now? Phil Anderson going for 2 stages in the Nissan, and he thinks he's got it. Phil Anderson. Let's take a look at this again now. Anderson nearest the camera here, and he takes on Michel Vermont, no doubt about it. Anderson gets his 2nd win. And here the bunch sprint in 5th place, Sean Yates, the early attacker. Terrific ride by Sean Yates. And Mark Walsham takes the bunch sprint from the group 21 seconds back.
So Elliott, Kelly and Van der Poel are the losers today as Rolf Goltz makes the break. Phil, at least that's some consolation for your bad luck yesterday.
Yeah, I was pretty disappointed after yesterday, and the only thing left to do was to try and win some stages. So there's only 1 stage left now, but the last stage it's very difficult to win. But I was very happy to win today. I was fit for it, and I was always looking for the right moment to go. And then I was away with 3 other guys and got them in the sprint. So
2 stage wins on the Nissan can't be bad by anybody's book.
No, I'm very happy because this season has been fantastic, and I need every win I can get this year. So pretty happy with it.
Well, it was the 4th place man there, Rolf Goltz, that really gained out of that. All the other top contenders way 21 seconds behind.
I have the confirmation. The yellow jersey goes to Rolf Goltz of Superconfex. Takes the yellow jersey. Rolf Goltz.
Rolf, many congratulations. First yellow jersey in the Nissan Classic. Now, what about tomorrow?
It will be very hard for me because there are other hot points, and Elliott and Kelly are very, very fast in sprint, and I hope I can do something. I can get some bonifications and stay in 1st place.
Now, there's only a couple of seconds in it, I think, but you managed to outwit Elliott and Kelly here in Limerick, in Cork on the finishing circuit. I mean, can't you do it again on the finishing circuit in Dublin?
No, with the yellow jersey, that's not possible.
Well, one wonders, will the yellow jersey be lucky for the West German? For Christoph Levine on the first day and Phil Anderson into Galway, it proved to be disastrous when those terrible punctures really let them down. And one wonders if Malcolm Elliott is not in fact quite relieved that he's not wearing yellow when we go to Dublin, as he will not possibly stick out like a Belisha beacon and a target to his fellow competitors. So Rolf Goltz very happily puts on the yellow, a very proud moment for any rider, and takes the applause of the Cork crowd. And once again, the flowers go flying into the crowd for some lucky admirer. And next we see the range of jerseys on the Nissan, all signifying their own very special achievements during the day. On the right, we have Van der Arden, the hot spots leader, in white. Then we have Galtz in yellow, Kelly in green as the points leader. Phil Anderson, the stage winner, and of course Marshal Guillant, King of the Mountains. And there's the situation tonight. The overall position, Galtz is in the lead, Elliott second and Kelly third. Sean, it wasn't really a day that went according to plan.
No, it didn't go to plan. The real plan would have been to take the jersey today, but that didn't work out, and I wasn't riding well today. I felt that all week. I'm not riding in the best of my form, but yesterday when I got into that position, I said, well, I'll try and do my best today. And it was okay, and we got to the second when Goltz made his move. I see it, but I wasn't able to react. I just hadn't got the legs.
Well, now tomorrow, Sean, it's still very much within your grasp to get the fourth Nissan victory, but you're going to really have to do the ride of your life up in Dublin.
Well, yes, I'm going to have to do a very good ride tomorrow. Hopefully that I'm riding better than I was today, because if I'm not, well, then it's going to be it's impossible. But I will, hopefully that I'll have a better day tomorrow, and I'll do my best, and hopefully that I can pull it off.
Well, Sean Kelly's family in the background and the grandstand are about the only ones left here in Cork, and that signifies that the action is over for today.
Hello, you're welcome to O'Connell Street for day 5 of the Nissan Cycling Classic, and a very special day for cycling and for the people of Dublin. It's the special Millennium stage of the Nissan. Over 90 miles of cycling to be done around the streets of Dublin and the county too, because the race takes it out as far as Shankill on the south side. It'll turn back to Dunleary, Blackrock, over the toll bridge and up to the north side, around the Hill of Howth, and then eventually back here to O'Connell Street for what surely promises to be a dramatic finish. So let's join the action then on the last day of the Nissan Cycling Classic with commentators Phil Liggett and Alan Tyndall.
And there's the general classification after 4 days of absolute total excitement around Ireland. As you can see, that Rolf Galtz has leapt to the head of the list, just ahead of Malcolm Elliott, who of course wore yellow the previous night. And of course, one of the people that have been privileged enough alongside me to be watching all this action right throughout those 4 days has been Phil Liggett.
Well, we have been in the process of the race now since we started at Donnybrook, 35 minutes. And in that 35 minutes, the riders have averaged something in the region of 28 miles an hour. So that's a very, very quick opening average speed. Because they are now, and the reason, of course, is because the leaders, or the hopeful leaders of this race, have attacked very, very early on, and they've caught 1 or 2 riders on the defensive, not least, I have to say, Sean Kelly and the race leader, Rolf Galtz. We've not seen any appearance in this front group of the race leader. That yellow jersey down there, by the way, is one of the Cass riders, and is certainly not Rolf Galtz from the Super Confex team.
And I think we're going to have an opportunity to talk to Pat McQuaid, who's right down there in the car with the race, and we'll have the whole feeling of what's happening. Pat, can you hear us?
Yes, I certainly can hear you, and there's a hell of a lot happening here. It's absolutely wild, this race is today. The speed has really been on, and as you can see now, they're going for this sprint. We saw Sean Yates leading it out, and Malcolm Elliott's on his wheel, and just behind him was Eric Van der Arden also. It's going to be a very close thing. Kelly's also up in the group, and you can probably see it a bit closer than I can. But here's the sprint now. Van der Arden won a odd spot sprint here 2 years ago, and it seems to be Elliott, Van der Arden. The yellow jersey's actually up there too. The yellow jersey, I think, took that sprint, which is a good sign.
Indeed, Pat, from our position here, it did look indeed as though the yellow jersey produced quite an extraordinary finish there to pip Malcolm Elliott. We'll wait for confirmation, perhaps from you from the race radio, as to who got third place. But there's a big surprise, Pat, isn't it? Because the yellow jersey has produced an extraordinary sprint there. Of course, we're not the judges, but it did look, Pat, as though it certainly was the yellow jersey of Galtz, who came from absolutely nowhere there to take that very valuable 3 seconds bonus.
And there's the confirmation of the first hot spot of the day, and we don't get another one, incidentally, until we get right back into O'Connell Street. Rolf Galtz gets 5 points, Malcolm Elliott 3, and Stephen Roach 2.
That's quite right. But what the riders wanted, of course, were the time bonuses, and Rolf Galtz getting that 3 seconds now gives him an 8-second overall lead ahead of Malcolm Elliott.
All seem to be resting a little bit at the moment, Phil. I would imagine if Van der Poel could have had more up there, if he could get about 5 or 6 with them as he has now, that's just what he would want. And there he seems to be going with them now. He's trying to judge the situation. We've got another 3 now out ahead. Van der Poel has dropped back. So a complete switch yet again in this race.
Yes, and a very good 1-2 here by the Dutch Panasonic team, because as soon as Van Lanker was caught, the Panasonic boys have gone immediately on the attack, and that's the Panasonic rider now going clear. He's got a Toshiba man with him by the look of it, and I think that could even be Paul Kimmage in 3rd place there from the RMO team. 3 riders now trying to go clear, and nobody, funnily enough, helping out with the gap. We're now coming out towards the peninsula on the right there of the picture, up by Hoath.
So they can't be too far off the summit now, Phil. It's not a very long climb. It's a punishing one, but it's not that long.
No, and they're keeping a good rhythm up here too. Piper will want to do something today, I think, and he's gone away, and now he's on the right of the picture. There's Pascal Poisson from the Toshiba team. It's been not a very good season at all for Toshiba, of course, and even in this
Paul
race.
Kimmage making a big effort. There's the 200 metres to go flag. Wouldn't it be nice if Paul Kimmage could get glory on the King of the Mountains once again, and there he goes.
So Kimmage then going for the big points on the top of the first climb, and it looks as though Poisson chases him too, but Kimmage has found himself a new pair of legs this morning. Paul Kimmage now going for the line. He'll win the prize at the top because Poisson sat up. Kimmage, Poisson, Piper, that was the order over the top of the King of the Mountains there, first time, but of course 3 more climbs to come here, and well done, Paul, because that's a nice piece of cycling from you, and I know it'll give you a lot of confidence.
And we're really travelling somewhat now. I mean, we must be up to about 45 miles an hour, I would think there. It's a very, very fast descent. It's not a particularly dangerous descent because it's good wide road. There aren't any really severe corners on the way down the far side of Hoath Head here. And the main bunch seem to be definitely using the opportunity to take a bit of a rest.
They are. These 3 riders now are going clear. We were talking earlier about combinations of riders trying to get the right combination to escape, and we've got a good combination here now, because it's safe to say that none of these riders here in the leading group threaten the overall leaders of the race, so they will be allowed their head unless somebody starts to counter-attack from the main field and the race gathers momentum, and gradually they'll pick them up. So Paul Kimmage has made a very, very intelligent move here. He's gone with 2 riders who are strong riders, known to be strong riders, and but not high up in this particular race.
And there we are. There's the situation as they came over the first time. As we know, great news indeed. Kimmage first, Poisson second, Piper, and then Early. Martin Early, another Irishman well up there. Gayant, we would have expected that. Must be holding on to the polka dot jersey. Phil Anderson, we saw him out in the early group, well up to the 4 at Sutton Cross before they came into this lap. Van der Poel, Van Lanker, and Galtz was there as well.
Here they are, and Alan Piper leading Paul Kimmage from Dublin. Just behind him is Pascal Poisson of France, and they're on the, is it the lower slopes of the climb again now?
Yes, they're just coming out of the village of Hoath and starting the climb now, and we've got confirmation of the overall positions in the King of the Mountain competition after that last run over Hoath Head, and of course Marshal Gaillon there once again in the points, and he now has a staggering 101 points compared to Adrie van der Poel's 81.
And we've got 5 men now trying to go clear on the climb. So it looks as though the reactions are going to keep on coming here. And Anderson is the strong man yet again. He is so annoyed that he has lost his chance of winning the Nissan Classic by a stupid puncture coming down the Silver Mines on the road to Limerick.
Poisson right behind him, and of course still there, possibly the most dangerous man of all in this trio, Alan Piper, the Australian. There we've got 200 metres to go. You see the light blue flag, and is Kimmage going to get it? They're bound to sprint surely for King of the Mountain points any second now. Still Kimmage though, holding on grimly.
Now, will he go for it? Poisson at the moment doesn't seem to be too mercenary. Oh no, having spoken, here goes Poisson. Second time over the top, and Pascal Poisson pips it this time. And it looks to me as though Paul may have got second or third, but it really doesn't matter, you know, because Paul isn't going for the King of the Mountains. He's going for the win, and that will stop him feeling any pressure now, having to keep on winning on the climb. This is the second group here now, and it looks white jersey of Eric van der Aarden. He's the 4th man from the right at the bottom of our picture. He's right in the centre of the picture now. You can see the Nissan insignia on the back. He's leading in the sprint competition, and he must be the least worried today. Phil Anderson moving to the outside there. Yeah, there he goes, Alan. I think he's just trying to get himself into a springboard position here to possibly try and pop out and take 4th place over the top of the climb, second time up.
Yes, he's in a beautiful position now. There he goes for it. Look, darts out from behind the second rider. He's leading the new bunch across the finish. Phil Anderson going to get 4th place in that King of the Mountains. And there he goes over the line. And we knew the first 3. It was Poisson ahead this time. Kimmage and that 3 group. We've seen that right since they hit the Coast Circuit. But Anderson coming up into 4th place. Guyant again. You can almost automatically type him in on these ones. Lavigne, there's the man that had such hard luck on day 2. He wore the yellow jersey on day 2. Rolf Goltz, the current leader at the moment. Van der Poel right in there. Dag Erik Pedersen, he's also been well to the fore throughout the week. And Sean Yates getting in the top 10. And interesting news, they're actually gaining. They're gaining rapidly at the moment. They're over 2 minutes ahead of the main group. 1:33 was the last read we had on it, and now it's stretched out to 2 minutes, and this is interesting.
Well, it is interesting because I'll tell you why. Alan Piper is in 18th place in the Nissan Classic, and his time gap is 5 minutes and 44 seconds behind Rolf Goltz, the leader. So over 2 minutes now, he's pulled back almost half of the time he's lost over the last 4 days of racing. Now, this gap may not go too much further. There they are. That's the group that's going to have to decide what they're going to do about this breakaway. They're a fair way back now. And as I speak, we're told they are at 2 minutes 47 seconds, and there it is, 2 minutes 47 seconds. So that means that they are now over a mile ahead of this group on the road. And the man out the window waving to us is Jerry McDade, the Scots assistant referee of the race, and he's indicating 200 yards to go for the leaders for the 3rd climb up the hill.
Almost like a tank commander there in charge.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you know, the organiser of the Tour of Italy often does that and then put music to it one day. It looked as though he was conducting the orchestra. So it's one each now because Piper's taking this one. Piper is over the top in 1st place, so each one of them now, 3 climbs gone. They've all had 1 victory each, so they're obviously good friends at the moment. And so there's the helicopter shot again now as we're coming up towards the top of the climb with the main field. But I think, Pat, you're back with us on the way down the other side of the hill, aren't you?
That's right, yeah. We're going back down now in front of the leading 3, Piper, Kimmage and Poisson. And they're going down again 40-45 mile an hour all the way down to the east end.
Right, well, that's thank you, Pat. And by the way, our link up here, thanks to the Aircell telephones, they really are bringing Pat over to us absolutely crystal clear. There's the chasing group now going over the top of the climb. I think that's Marshal Gaillon who's snatched maximum points there, as we're now back with the leaders. And this little rise which follows the short descent, and this is a little leg ache, I think, this one.
There's the result of the 3rd passage over Howth, and as we saw, Piper took the honours this time. They've all taken it in turns of the 3 group out front. So Kimmage won the first one, Poisson the second, and Piper the third. And here they are. They're now, having turned the corner again at Sutton Cross, are heading back now this time into Howth Village for the last time.
Well, there we are as we look down on the race here. There's the overall situation as of now in the King of the Mountains. Marshal Gaillon moves up to 107 points. Van der Poel holds his 2nd place, but the gap coming down a little bit there. Phil Anderson in 3rd spot and Christophe Leven 4th. Martin Early 5th. Not a lot of change, and in fact the gap's widening now with this overall classification, and there is only 1 more mountain to come in the Nissan Classic.
In the meantime, we're more interested to see who gets over Howth Hill for the 4th time. It's a King of the Mountain points. They're beginning to speed up. They're beginning to go for it. Piper, for the first time, looking on his face a little bit of a struggle there. Paul Kimmage just working away. And of course, it's Pascal Poisson in the 3rd of these riders. And these are the 3 that have been out ahead for the entire circuit of Howth on the 4 occasions that they've done it.
And they're doing it so quickly, and by my calculations at the moment, Alan, they're running almost on their best possible schedule of 28 miles an hour average, and that means they're going to be in O'Connell Street in just about half an hour from now. Can you imagine riding from here on a bike to downtown Dublin in just half an hour.
I couldn't.
Especially the way we're going, of course, up through Malahide and down towards Whitehall and in to do 10 laps of O'Connell Street. So it's going to be touch and go, and there's a real possibility at least now that these three riders will stay away at least till we arrive back in the city of Dublin and in the Millennium. It could be a Dubliner, of all people, of all the top riders in the race, it could be a Dubliner who brings the race into O'Connell Street.
Well, we keep our fingers crossed for that possibility. It certainly is becoming more of a possibility as mile after mile Paul Kimmage pounds it out there on the Hill of Hope. And this hill must get longer every time he comes up. We must be very close to the summit there, and in fact it was Passong who took it again that time. Kimmage second, and in third place Piper.
Yes, and you see, they didn't actually sprint for it at all. They just, it was the changeover at the front, and Poisson took his chance, and he was over first. So he's won 2. The other 2 have won 1 each. The 4 passages now of the mountain are over. We'll now start the long, fast swoop down towards Sutton Cross, and eventually out then in a northerly direction up towards Portmarnock and Malahide. And the win for Pascal Poisson, second one out of 4 for him. Kimmage and Piper. Christophe Leven scoring well today, 4th. Marshall Guyon, now the winner of the King of the Mountains, he was 5th. Jean-Claude Leclerc, Bob Miller in 7th place, Rob Holden, Ian Saunders, and the ever-present Martin Early from Ireland in 10th spot.
Well, we're along the coast road between Portmarnock and Malahide, and I think we can get Pat McQuaid. Pat, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Alan.
Do you know the gap at the moment?
The latest gap we've heard is 1 minute 36 seconds, but there's a lot of activity going on behind. The yellow jersey has attacked, and he's chasing, so there's a big chase going on, and I do feel that this group are going to get caught, but there's no doubt they've done a fantastic ride up to now.
Well, we're just almost into Malahide, one of the old Martello towers converted into a house there, we can see in the background, and the entire population of Malahide, I think, are about to turn out to see them. It's one of the prettiest towns in Ireland, always well up in the Tidy Town competition, second this year, and we're right along the coast. It's been a bit exposed for the riders there. And the interesting thing, of course, is that gap is closing. It was down to 1:36 the last time we got a read of it.
And these are the chasing group. They look like a couple of Fago riders here, because that's the style of Sean Yates down there, and it might well be bringing across Malcolm Elliott, you know. It wouldn't surprise me here, because these are 2 top riders. Big man Sean Yates, he wouldn't go on the attack without Malcolm Elliott, and I think he's got Malcolm Elliott in his slipstream there. So Malcolm Elliott being brought back into this race with a vengeance, because overall Elliott is in second place and is only 6 seconds behind the yellow jersey, Rolf Goltz. So we've got 2 riders here making a significant contribution to the attack now. The Grand Hotel looked to me to be just over there on the right, and Paul Kimmage, of course, will know exactly where he is. I'm sure he's trained on these roads during his hours here, and Yates is the man doing the work. And I'm not quite sure, I must confess, as to the tactic here by the Fago boys, because this isn't Elliott. He normally has his headband on, which means to me that this rider must in fact be John Carlson. And so we've got 2 Fago boys chasing. I think it's Malcolm Elliott, John Carlson rather, and Sean Yates. We're back now with the 3 leaders, and they are really quite unconcerned. They're not being disturbed by the chase behind. They are keeping their rhythm nice and steady. They're just hoping that things might settle down a bit at the back, and they'll continue to race ahead.
And there's the bunch behind them. So let's recap on the situation. 3 riders out front, 2 closing the gap on them, and then the bunch which you're watching at the moment. And all the top men for contention are in that bunch. And remember that they are Goltz, Elliott, Kelly, Van der Poel, Guyant, Early, Winnan, Roach, Miller. That was the order last night when they came into Cork. They have transferred, of course, from Cork to Dublin for this spectacular Millennium stage.
Well, we're back with the leaders here now. We're looking here at the face of Paul Kimmage, and what a face it is, because he's full of determination here. Don't forget now, we're heading down towards O'Connell Street, and I make our arrival not more than about 15 or 20 minutes away from the beginning of the big circuit of the city of Dublin. 10 laps to come there, but now the race behind is closing down. Now we're going to have a look here at Malahide Castle. What a lovely view it is today on this Sunday afternoon. And so were the three leaders here, and they're being joined by the two ever-ready boys. So they slow down dramatically here as the bridge is formed, Sean Yates and Johnny Carlson, and we now have 5 riders in the lead, and I would suggest now that Paul Kimmage will be a little bit relieved here, because Sean Yates is a very, very strong rider indeed. Just look at the determination of Yates, and with his teammate here, John Carlson, then they're going to find they've got 2 good men, and Kimmage not afraid to continue to work with these riders out front.
Welcome back. We're in O'Connell Street on the finishing circuit, and we still have this group of 5 which have successfully broken away. There are about 4 laps to go.
Well, there were originally 10, but these 5 riders come on to an enormous cheer. They were led onto this circuit by Paul Kimmage. This is Sean Yates here now. And remember, too, that 2 riders have caught up with this group, but in fact they are 1 lap behind as we go out now with 4 to go. That's Thomas Wegmuller and Keith Reynolds. They've merged with this group and have in fact gone slightly out in front. So we're looking now at the 5 men who matter in today's stage. In the big bunch to come onto the circuit now is still the yellow jersey, Rolf Galton. One has to say now, Alan, that Sean Kelly, I think, is going to find it very, very difficult now to regain those 15 seconds overnight deficit.
Well, to many that'll be a disappointment, but if you were to pick one of these 5 for victory here in Dublin today, which one would it be, Phil?
Well, Yates came across so strongly here with the ever-ready Fagor team, and he brought his teammate Carlson across as well. And what a shame for Paul Kimmage, really. But then again, it's helped this break stay away. Kimmage knew that he wasn't going to say, somebody's gone the right of the picture there, and it's Alan Piper who's flown out of this pack. Alan Piper, no reaction. Look at this. Kimmage is looking over and saying, come on, give me a hand, but nobody is reacting. And Alan Piper of Australia now going for home here. And this is a great break. He's a specialist at this sort of thing in the last few laps. And look at this now. Piper passing one of the lapped riders on the circuit. And this now leading to a little bit of confusion here, Alan, because there are now the whole race on the circuit and spread all around the lap of O'Connell Street.
Well, Piper came out of there like a stone out of a catapult. That was really quite incredible. He's looking back to see what damage he's done to that break, and it certainly has been very successful indeed.
So Alan Piper then, this will be great reward for Alan. Look at this face here as he studies now on concentrating on getting through to the finish. Winner of the Tour of Sweden in the past, a winner of the opening stage of the Kellogg's Tour of Britain a couple of years ago, race leader in Paris-Nice. He's done a lot of good things in his cycling career, but this is a special stage here in Dublin, the Millennium, and Piper now totally 100% committed here, going down O'Connell Street. Look at this now for the study of a man in action.
Well, when he comes back just about to that point on the far side of O'Connell Street, he will still have 3 laps to go, and that's quite a distance. It's just over a mile per lap here in the O'Connell Street circuit, but there doesn't seem to be anybody giving him any opposition at the moment.
He's chosen his move well, and don't forget that Alan Piper was in the original break of 3 with Paul Kimmage and Pascal Poisson when they broke away at the 29-mile point today. And really, when Yates and Carlson came up to these 3 and made 5, I thought that surely the winner was going to come from the 2 ever-ready boys. Here we are then, 3 laps to go for Alan Piper, and he's the one that's taken the bull by the horns here in Dublin. And look at his face now. There won't be any coming back from this one if those boys come up to him now. Piper will have no strength left at all, because he's going along O'Connell Street here. Enormous cheers, and one has to say an enormous crowd as well.
And this is the hard section that he's just entering now, because he turns off O'Connell Street to go right round Parnell Square, and it's the far side of Parnell Square where he gets that nasty climb. He's just preparing for it now. And there is the following bunch. As we can see, it's again a little bit confused because there are some lapped riders in there.
Yes, there are indeed, but that's Sean Yates who's bringing the group round now, and Hughes reaching us at the yellow jersey safely in this big pack, and time certainly now running out for Malcolm Elliott and Sean Kelly. So it does really appear, we're going to see, some would say at last, a new winner of the Nissan Classic in Rolf Goltz. He's had a marvellous day. It's all worked out so well for him. He opened the day with that sprint win over Malcolm Elliott in the first hotspot sprint of the day, and since then the psychologies have worked out. He's watched all the breakaways go, not affecting his overall lead. There's Piper then going through on another group that will in fact be fighting out the 8th place on the race, and that included Brian Smith of Scotland, Steve Dowse there from the rally team, but Piper's gone past them here as if he's standing still.
And this is the fast part down into O'Connell Street, past the Ambassador Cinema, and he's looking around. He must really consolidate his lead at this stage. And Piper really struggling at this stage, and in fact the story behind is that the group seem to be catching up again.
Well, Piper may well have spotted something there which we haven't seen, because he keeps looking round here, and I'm wondering if in fact that's Sean Yates. Sean Yates has made contact again. Now how on earth Sean Yates did that, I never know, but it looks to me as though at least some of those original 5 riders are now back up with Alan Piper as they're again coming down O'Connell Street. Well, that is an amazing recovery, and Alan Piper's heart must have dropped into his boots there when he looked over his shoulder and has seen Sean Yates come right back into the action.
And no worse man than Sean Yates as far as Piper is concerned, because he is extremely strong.
Well, that's Yates now, certainly on the outside, and it's Pascal Poisson on the left, but Piper's going again. Alan Piper goes again. He's given them no chance to recover, and Piper on the attack again. Is there no holding this man today? He's been in the lead from 29 miles out, and he's still finding the legs to go again with 2 laps to go to the finish.
Yes, let's just remember that he's already won one of those Hoth climbs, and that must have taken a lot out of him. But to go again so quickly when he looked to be suffering, it's quite an amazing performance. Can he possibly stick out the 2 laps now?
Well, this time Alan Piper is making a little bit of ground. He keeps stunning the riders in this breakaway. He certainly deserves to pull off the lone victory if he can now, with just a couple of miles to go around the city of Dublin, which is on fete here today now, celebrating 1,000 years, and all Alan Piper wants to do is celebrate one single stage win in the Nissan Classic. The gap now beginning to open, and maybe the double blow is proving too much for the men who are chasing behind. Still in that group, Pascal Poisson, Sean Yates, John Carlson and Paul Kimmage. They're all now in that group, and they are only just a matter of 2 or 3 seconds behind Alan Piper.
And he's really having to work at it. Now, this is where it happened the last time. He's up at the top of Parnell Square, just going past the part where the Nissan Classic started 5 days ago, and it was in the downhill section that the bunch suddenly swallowed him up the last time. He can't feel secure. He doesn't look secure. He's looking round to see where they are.
So Piper now looking even underneath his legs there to see if there's any signs of wheels coming up on him rather quickly, because a lap and a half to go to the finish. Piper, I don't think, will live to fight another day now if they pull him back. He really is riding strongly today, and you've got to take your hat off to him, because he's stolen the thunder of Paul Kimmage from Dublin. Kimmage, who's been cheered all the way round this course today, and cheered, we thought, possibly to victory, especially when that breakaway was strengthened by the arrival of Sean Yates and John Carlson, but not to be. Alan Piper has jumped away, and he's now trying to go home, and he's making an effort here that you don't often see. A marvellous picture of Alan Piper, a study in motion from the mobile camera, Alan.
And behind him still that group, Yates, Poisson, we've got John Carlson, and we've got Paul Kimmage still in there, to the delight of these Dublin people.
Well, I wonder if Paul Kimmage can actually get himself a good position, but the sprint going to be in just over 1 lap's time now. Alan Piper is still going clear. A ride indeed today, because the race opened with a very fast pace, and eventually 3 men went clear as they went out towards the north of Dublin, and those 3 men, Alan Piper was one who was doing a lot of work, so too Paul Kimmage, and so too the Frenchman Pascal Poisson. 1 lap to go, the bell rings now. Piper just has 1 circuit of the city of Dublin for victory. It is by no means certain at the moment. The gap there at the line was just 7 seconds, so the field, or not the field, but the 4 chasers are right on his heels. There's absolutely no room for error, no room to overshoot. If you look in the distance there, you can see the chasing group behind the Chief Commissaire's car.
And once again he must suffer up around Parnell Square, this time for the last time, with the cheering crowds. That'll probably drive the Australian on. There we could just get a glimpse of the following bunch behind him, but he's now well clear, more so than he was on the last lap. And he glanced back there as he came up the hill to see where his pursuers are. It must be a slight relief to him now that he doesn't see them just as close as they were on the last lap. Up he gets, onto the pedals again.
But this is now surely for the last time for Alan Piper. He's not very far from home, and I certainly no more time to look round, Alan. That's right, prove me wrong, as Alan looks over his shoulder now to see the group going a little bit further back into the distance. and I don't think he even dare think now of what might be in a matter of 30 seconds or so, because the field are chasing him all the way home. Great ride for a great rider, and there's no doubt about that. Alan Piper shortly to go back home to Belgium, then flying off to his place of birth, Melbourne, and what will be now sunny Australia, of course, as that nation goes into its summer. So Alan Piper now, all that will be left for him very shortly, because the race behind totally committed and not coming up anymore now. The gap officially 8 seconds, and Piper, I think Alan is going to win this one.
Just got to go round the hairpin at the end here at O'Connell's Bridge. It's quite a slow hairpin, and it requires a fair old drag out of it, because you've got to get onto those pedals, get her up through the gears. And here he comes on the speed as he shoots down O'Connell Street for the last time. We can see it is clear behind him this time. Now he uses all the course right out to the right to take a good clean sweep around the hairpin, and very shortly victory will be in sight, and his first stage win on this year's Nissan. A marvellous achievement it's going to be for the Australian.
So Alan Piper, one final look over his shoulder. It's all right now though, Alan, you can sit down very soon and wave to the crowd, because this is going to be your stage now in the city of Dublin this afternoon. A great victory for Alan Piper. He'll cherish this one for many, many years. Piper crosses the line, and in the battle now for second place, it looks to me as though Pascal Poisson of Toshiba is over the line just ahead of Sean Yates, and the 5 seconds the gap. John Carlson will be fourth. Paul Kimmage comes home in an excellent fifth place. But it looks here on the back of the circuit, in fact, that the bunch have been slowed down by the public, who think the race is over, it appears to me, and the possibility now of some confusion because the main field is coming to a halt. Well, on the other side of the circuit now, this is the main field finishing. It's a tight sprint, and remember, this only for 12th place, but what an important sprint. Adrie van der Poel in the white. If he wins this sprint and takes it over from Phil Anderson in the green, Anderson will lose his points jersey. Anderson must beat van der Poel for the green jersey, and on the line it's going to be, I think, Adrie van der Poel takes 12th place. Anderson pipped in 13th. Rolf Goltz now, no doubt about the man who's won this race. The yellow jersey is on the shoulders of Rolf Goltz. He'll be the winner of the Nissan Classic. Let's have a look again in slow motion at that finish and just see if Van der Poel did in fact get the all-important 12th place sprint. And as they come up here towards the line, Van der Poel then on the line. Phil Anderson is second. He won't be happy about that, because I think there was one or two problems around the back of the circuit. Well, there was no doubt for many people here in Dublin today, the star of the day was certainly Paul Kimmage, and Michael Lester has now managed to dig him out of the crowd. So let's go down to Michael speaking to Paul.
Yes, Paul Kimmage, we saw more of you perhaps than anybody else on television today. Your sponsors at least will be very happy with you.
Well, I'm sure they will. Today was very, very sentimental for me. Hotel is a hill that I wore out when I was a young fella. I really, really wanted to be up there today. I think in the end that's what really did me, because I did too much work on the hill, because it was very, very sentimental to me, and I was just delighted to be up there.
You did everything but win this stage, Paul. Disappointed?
Of course I'm disappointed, but I was unlucky in that in my breakaway I was with four really, really strong fellas, and you can't get any stronger guys in a peloton than Piper, Yates and Poisson and Carlson. They're animals to ride, and I was a bit unlucky in that I came across four really strong fellas, but sure, that's the way it is.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, sorry for the slight delay. We had to sort all the official prize winners out. It takes a lot of work.
And there's
out
the
with
stage result. Alan Piper, the Australian, taking it. Poisson in second place. Sean Yates third. Kimmage there in fifth, as you can see. Then Wegmuller, who we were all a bit confused about, in sixth, and Goltz in 10th.
It was a good race from your point of view, but a strange race tactically.
No, it wasn't so strange, because we knew that we must let go away some riders, because I feared of Elliott in the bonifications, and so we wanted to let go away some riders, and it was good for us.
We talked to you as well before the race. Now, you carried the slimmest of leads with that yellow jersey going into today's stage. How did you feel as the race went on? Were you comfortable? Were you happy you could take it?
After the race?
During today's stage?
During? As I have beaten Elliott in the first hotspot, I thought that it was possible to win this day, and so I was quite happy. But there was a difficult situation in the beginning of the race. They went away a group with Elliott, and this was very dangerous for us. I had to go, the last meters I had to go alone to Elliott, and it was good.
Let's put our hands together then for Alan Piper, winner of the final stage.
And there he is, Alan Piper, receiving a tremendous welcome here on the presentation podium, and his nice piece of Waterford crystal there from Tony Kelly, because he really did take the gamble. He's led this race in the 28th mile today with two riders, and in the end found the legs that carried him to the stage victory. And that'll be a nice pennant hanging on his bedroom wall, a rather special one. Now we're looking at the white jersey presentation. There was never any doubt almost from day one who was going to win this. Eric van der Aarden, the best sprinter in the race for the Hotspot Sprint competition. He wins the Nissan Sprint competition this year, and he wins it so well. He's one of the fastest finishers in the world, the winner of Paris-Roubaix, the green jersey winner in the Tour de France, stage winner in the Tour de France, and now the winner of the best sprinter in the Nissan Classic. Eric van der Aarden.
We now move on to the man that flies over the mountains quickest. It hurts everyone else's
And next it should be the presentation of the King of the Mountains, and there's absolutely no doubt about who that's going to go to. Marshall Guyant, who has held the jersey right throughout the entire competition.
He'll take his award.
And there's the green jersey, the one that's caused the controversy here as far as Phil Anderson is concerned today, because while one Australian on the left is smiling, Alan Piper, the other Australian, Phil Anderson, is rather upset because he led this competition by a single point. Confusion has been rife, with Adrie van der Poel, who has won this green jersey before in the Nissan Classic, wins it again now, and he wins it by being better placed by just one place over Phil Anderson in the finishing sprint. You can't possibly get a closer finish than that for the most consistent sprinter. Adrie van der Poel then finally got his place on the podium here. It wasn't quite the colour he wanted. He wanted yellow, but green will do nicely.
Look at that trophy, isn't it absolutely beautiful? Waterford Glass, who are very much involved in the Nissan as one of their sponsors. That specially created trophy that will be proudly taken back to West Germany by Rolf Goltz, and is certainly well-deserved prize indeed. He really came to the fore yesterday in Cork, and he's managed to retain the yellow that hasn't been the luckiest for some. Lavienne, who sadly wore it on the first day and went out with punctures. The biggest loser of all in many ways in this year's Nissan, Phil Anderson, who wore it into Galway. But the man who wears it finally, and that's the one that counts, is Rolf Goltz from West Germany.
Just clouted the roof with a Waterford Crystal Trophy.
Malcolm Elliott coming through in second, Sean Kelly third, as we can see. Guyant, King of the Mountains, as high as fifth, and Martin Early in sixth. Isn't that good news?
Good result. So the Nissan Classic keeps up its reputation for very, very close finishes, and just 6 seconds in the end for Malcolm Elliott.
And so that brings the curtain down then on the Nissan Cycling Classic for 1988. It's been 5 tough days of cycling. Cycling has seen the riders go across the country to Sligo, to Galway, to Limerick, to Cork, and back here to Dublin for the special Millennium Stage. And at the end of all that, it's West Germany and Rolf Goltz, which has emerged the winner of the 1988 Nissan Cycling Classic. We hope that you've enjoyed the action here from the streets of Dublin today, and from all of us on the Nissan this year, bye-bye to you.